I'd say regrettably only 2 AMs, because one of the problems that AMs have is that the pro cars and silver cars and pro AM cars are now being driven so hard that some of the enjoyment that the AMs would like to engage in an endurance event, they're just finding themselves being frustrated by the pace and maybe the aggression of these other categories. So only 2 AMs in it this year.
Who own the double left-handed corner that Kelvin van der Linde is headed into now. You see our race vision powered by AWS. That Audi has been strong in this section of the track, sharing the same top speed through that section with 2 other drivers, Lucas Auer in a Mercedes-AMG and Nikolai Kiergaard in the Silver Cup 159 Aston Martin that just had to serve that penalty a few moments ago. And I should check in, it does look like he was able to retain second spot over Max Huffer. So that's good news for them, but he's now 1 minute and 12 seconds out of the class lead when it was, well, about 1 minute less than that prior to the penalty.
Yeah, it was about 15 seconds between Kujala and Kiergaard, but now it's just, well, a minute further down the road. And I mean, just a bit of exuberance running too far over a curb, and then you get pinged and that's your penalty.
Here is the overall leader. This car emerged overnight as the dominant force in this race, looking for a breakthrough for Ferrari. It's been since 2004, seeking their 4th overall win as a brand at the 24 Hours of Spa. But Kelvin van der Linde has got different ideas, trying to chase down the leader 4.6 seconds down the road. Nielsen through the compression at Eau Rouge, then up the hill he comes. We talk about it often, but what is that section of track like for the driver? What are the forces that you feel go through your body when you make your left hand and your right hand?
Imagine the craziest roller coaster ride in the world, and you've got some great ones over in the United States of America. That's what it's like. And you're not doing it just at daylight hours, you're doing it at night time, you're doing it at day when it's wet, you're doing it at night when it's wet. It is probably still, I would say, the single largest challenge for any race driver in any category across the world.
Drive-through penalty to car 40 and car 66 for track limits. Drive-through penalty 40 and 66.
As we look at our AM class leader, the Nageli by T2 Racing Porsche, the lone AM class car still running at this stage. Manuel Lauk driving that machine.
3 hours.
Penalties handed down. The 66 is the one that I think is most noteworthy. That car is in 6th right now. That's the one that's had the transponder issues. So not sure exactly who's piloting that car. Seems to me they just had a drive-through not that long ago. Whatever the case, this is not going to help their cause to come back from 2 laps behind the lead. Manuel Lauk, by the way, as we look in on him, 37-year-old from Germany, a champion in GT3 AM and the Asian Le Mans Series over the winter, I should say, and also had some other successes racing in the Middle East over the winter. Has been active in GT Open and other GT championships, putting in some solid stints here, just trying to bring that car home. No pressure at this stage in terms of anyone giving chase, but you still got to make it to the finish line.
Yes, you've got to make it to the finish line, and it would help if you make, or you don't make the unforced errors by making a transgression with track limits. But looking at this battle, Matt Griffin right now, class position 1. Great to see Matt Griffin back in that Pro-Am Ferrari and delivering. He's one of Ferrari's, what I would loosely call centrally contracted drivers. He is a Ferrari contract that he then gets placed with wherever Ferrari chooses to place him, many of their customer cars. So that's where Matt Griffin, he and Duncan Cameron have been a partnership for many, many years.
Yeah, they're teamed up once again here for AF Corsa. That's your Pro-Am leader, Miguel Molina, an ace himself behind the wheel, part of this driving lineup. And Reno Mastronardi turned in a couple of really good stints here early this morning to keep that car in contention. And right now, the leaders in Pro-Am. It's been a good day for Ferrari. This is a big part of it. Number 53 Blarney from AF Corsa leading the way in Pro-Am. Matt Griffin from Blarney. Ireland. Am I saying that correctly?
Sorry?
Exit and remember to brake early.
Blarney?
I've never heard of that. There's a lot of Blarney in Ireland.
I suppose there would
but
be.
The town called Blarney, I personally have never heard of.
全
Never
4 轮
visited,
胎
but
建议
County
的段
Cork
数是5段
is，one of the most magnificent counties
可能还有
in
赛
the
道积水的
entire
问题，
island of Ireland.
就
38 years old.
遥感吗？是怎样
And？ like you said, has a long association, albeit maybe a bit more informal with Ferrari than some of the factory drivers, but you do see him turn up in these big races. This is the car giving chase, second place in Pro-Am. John Wartique, who was a late call-up to this car. There was a change in the lineup late in the going, and that opened the door for John, who is a native of Belgium with some Ferrari Challenge experience. He jumped in along with Alessio Rovera. They replaced James Collado and Lorenzo Bontempelli in the lineup. That was one of many shuffles to driver lineups in the weeks in the build-up to this race.
Yes, I mean, a number of drivers have unfortunately had to step back from their teams due to the ongoing COVID issue, whether they have it or whether they were in the company of, they got pinged. So there's been a lot in the UK of pinging, sort of causing a lot of frustration, but there we are, we have to consider the outcome of all these pandemics.
Sandy Mitchell, the Scot, behind the wheel of the Lamborghini that's behind this Ferrari we're looking at. So although this is third place, chasing down second, this is not for position as I understand it. This car is a lap behind the two class leaders, but Sandy, the reigning British GT3 champion racing for Barwell, is on the charge, trying to make his way back up, try to get back on the same lap. If he can do so, maybe the safety car comes out, provides him the opportunity to challenge for a win.
Drive-through penalty to car 20. Track limits. Drive-through penalty car
相对
20.
高的这个抓地力是我们
Well,
现
that's
在需要
Valentin
的。
Pierberg, George Cruz, Colin Brune and Dominic Baumann, two of your countrymen there.
That's
Don't know
right.
which of the four was
比
behind the
赛
wheel
还
at
有
the
4
time,
分
but
钟开始，
doesn't matter, the penalty is going to be served.
George Kurtz and Colin Brown, who you mentioned, this is the car right here. They are the second place in Pro-Am this season thus far in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. This is the second time they've come over to contest this race at Spa, and they did it 1 year ago. It's actually the same team running the car, SPS Performance Automotive. Same four drivers behind the wheel too, and talking to them coming into this event, they felt good about their chances because of that consistency. But as we go on board, the problem has been they've had a few penalties here this morning that has them a bit down the order and away from their goal, which was a podium finishing class.
We're running with Dominic
Well,
Baumann in the
we
20 Mercedes.
21，我这么后面。
Very experienced and highly
Holy shit.
regarded race driver in Europe. But one of them has been responsible. He's from Austria. You can see that's the colours of the Austrian flag. Anyway, down at the bottom of the circuit now, coming up through Stabilo, a famous corner both today, but certainly on the initiation of the Spa-Francorchamps, was it 14 kilometres racetrack. Stabilo was one of the must-watch at corners. Different corners a day.
Still, Blanchimont appears daunting today, despite some of the changes made to the circuit. This is another area of the circuit that has been changed over the years. We'll see, does Baumann serve the penalty now? Yes, he does. The 2012 FIA GT3 European Championship champion,
我现在是要关掉
driving
吗
a Mercedes AMG SOS back in the day. Again, not going quite the way they had hoped with this penalty here. This will set them a bit back further down. Not sure if he was waving to the crew, which are set up right there, or if he was simply stretching out the wrist a little bit.
Well, he's going to make his way around. Go back to track action. And you see the Audi and the 50 Mercedes and that little bit of action going on.
Plenty of action going on the racetrack here. Benji Goethe, I think, yes it is, that is Silver Cup entry for Goethe. Love the look of that car, John. Anytime you put something with that light blue and the orange, the Gulf color, that goes back to John Wyer, if I'm not mistaken. Would I be right to go back to some of the cars that ran in that Gulf livery in the early days?
I remember in 1973 racing for the John Wyer automotive team.
调整一下设定，等我一下。
in that resplendent Gulf, the blue, orange, and black lining. Iconic, and one of the most iconic car liveries of all time.
And some of them just don't age, do they? It doesn't seem to matter what type of car you put it on, whether it's a prototype or a GT car. Doesn't matter if it's from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. I mean, it just looks good.
Stands out.
Yes.
Combination of the light blue and the orange with the black lining. So a very, very special livery, which of course is that of a global fuel company.
Now, fights all up and down this field of cars. That's the beauty of it. With 58 that took the start, there has been some attrition. We're down to, I think, 37 cars still running, but always somebody to battle with, always something to keep your eye on in the 24 hours of Spa. The fights continue throughout this field. Just 2.5 hours remaining. Taking a look at some of the cars that maybe have been flying off the radar but are still running. And that in and of itself is saying something. This car we have been talking about because this is the third place car in Silver Cup, and it's over behind the wheel at the moment. And they are trying to run down second place, which is the Aston with Kiergaard behind the wheel that had the penalty just a moment ago.
会上暖胎圈是不是啊？
Still turning some nice lap times is this number 99 car.
哦，这是我 TC 段数太高了。
That's not the way it's turned out, but still running in podium contention as David Addison slides.
它油门直接是锁住的，几乎啊。
I think so.
我们刚说几段来着。
Supposedly the gun driver is going to take it to the end. Is that right? I think I might be overrunning my car here, but we are set up for a great finish.
哦，好滑！哇哇！我不能跑雨天，我不会跑雨天。哦，这是在撞人秀吧？
So 14 Lamborghini, which is another good choice race. Alex Fontana, 911 Porsche. What else could it be? Robert Renard at the wheel. And those cars, quite a long way down the order, of course, now, after everything that's been thrown at the teams over the course of the race.
Oh my God.
That battle between Nielsen and van der Linde has been something special, hasn't it? Especially through the traffic.
It's one of the joys of watching endurance racing, and I liken it to watching a golf tournament. If you're tuning in for non-stop action every single second, it's probably not for you. But if you like the long game, watching the ebbs and the flows, watching the tide come in and out, so to speak, this is beautiful, and the payoff is at the end as ever. If you've been following it with us, you know the story. The 32 car starting in the back has charged its way forward for the last 8-10 hours now. Those two cars, those two teams have been battling in terms of strategy. They've been battling on the racetrack. They've been battling to stay out of trouble. They've been dealing with the weather. And all of this said, this deep into a 24-hour race, still just 6 seconds between the top two. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, absolutely right. And it might be less than that, you never know, starting the last lap, because it's if they haven't been trying hard now. We're getting to the business end of all of this. Some of the teams asking race control to wave blue flags at back markers. They don't want to be impeded as they get up through the traffic.
One thing I did mean to mention that I haven't had a chance to is the weather forecast. And our friends from Porsche telling us they expect it to stay dry from here on out. Their forecast tends to be pretty good.
So far, they've done all right for us, haven't they? So we're hearing that rain after the race. Well, that's been for some teams' calculations and their hopes up in the air. We're working lap 502 here at the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa. David Addison and Ryan Marine trackside. Gemma Scott down in the pits. Bastian Buss hard at work in the Silver Cup in the Team Allied Racing Porsche. Bastian, who was a GT4 hot shoe a year ago in the GT4 European Series. We've seen him now in the DTM Trophy, the German Sport Series to the DTM. And there you've got Robert Renard hustling on behind. Now that had a really
大家都开很慢，这是耐力赛，我们不是比快的，我们是要比谁开的久的。
This is a drive-through for Robert Renard. At 18, you're hearing about in the background is another Porsche, Alex Imperatore, in the KCMG car. The second of the two. In fact, you've got both the KCMG cars up in the top 11, have you 7th and 11th, 47. Maxime Martin and 18 for the Swiss driver Alexandre Imperatore. So the lead gap going up again, 6.3 seconds. What's going on with this situation? Is this traffic at times held in the alley, or is it Ferrari being able to turn up the wick?
John and I have been trying to get to the bottom of that as well as we go on board with the Inception Racing Pro-Am class McLaren, driven by Ollie Milroy at the moment, currently running 31st. And not really in contention to make up another spot, barring some problems for its closest rivals. But it does seem like Nielsen has found something on this stint where consistently, it's not a big difference, but a tenth or two here or there, every once in a while, just a little bit more. And he's been able to leg out the advantage, where it seemed like the previous stint, it was the opposite, and Kelvin was closing in ever so slightly. I do want to remind everyone, though, Dries Van Thor, I suspect, will be in the David
我已经感觉到刚才那个轮胎极限，才再多转一点点就会滑走。
It's a great lineup with Van der Linde, Weerts, and Dries Van Thor, but Dries consistently has been the one that has been able to match.
以前没有 ABS， 雨天赛车重刹是一定打。
What I think it's going to be. It seems like it would be the right choice. I think we're in for some fireworks.
No, I think you're absolutely right. They're re-engineering this, reverse engineering it, aren't they? So Van Thor at the end. So how do we get to that point with the other drivers? If number 32 wins, Charles Weerts would become the youngest winner of the event. 20 years and 5 months. Therefore, younger than when Maxi Group won the event. So there's another little Belgian regional news story brewing. Because there you see Kelvin van der Linde at the wheel, 7 seconds the margin. It almost seems from the outside looking in at times as though the Ferrari kind of wakes up halfway through a stint, as though it works better on a lighter fuel load, whereas the Audi perhaps works better on a heavier fuel load. At the start of the stint, the Audi seems to be really good, and then that pendulum swings again towards the Ferrari. But it's been a barren streak, really, since the old FIA GT Championship days of BMS Scuderia Italia running it back in 04. And Ferrari with this 488 and victorious. So far,
car on the left.
But don't
Clear on the left.
the links,
absolutely,
as we've been told.
Absolutely.
That was the most recent of 3 overall wins for Ferrari. They had overall triumphs as well in 1949 and 1953.
第一圈超对台法拉利。
It's the German manufacturer's win streak that is up for grabs here. Also, that Audi is still trying to uphold. The last non-German car to win overall here, I believe, was a Corvette.
我这边真的开很差。刚水压到手，危险。这样这已经是一台失去了。
Changed emphasis in recent years from being a touring car race. For many, many years it was around the European Touring Car Championship. When that faded away, it ran as a one-off touring car race. I think the 2 years that we had Peugeot D206s winning, the RCB, thought we've got to do something here. So Stefan Rossi make your race.
What the fuck you driving?
Has he done so?
The touring car history of this event
我还被惩罚，关我屁事啊！
what appears to be a
当然
very
撞我
strange statistic that BMW has the most wins of any manufacturer at 24, and the next closest is Porsche with 8. But if you go back through the history, there were a lot of years where touring cars, yeah, that's
BMW,
maybe not so much for the Porsche. So they racked up some of those wins there. They've been good in the GT3 era with wins in 18, 16, and 15. But Porsche in recent years, they won the last 2 in 2010. Then you got the 7th most wins to Alfa Romeo, but none for them since 1938, and on and on and on. So really interesting to see how this develops.
Porsches have raced in touring cars for a brief spell. The 911 was in the British Touring Car Championship and I think in the Australian Championship on the basis that it had just about space for rear seats. So notionally, that got you in as a touring car. Now it might be that the only people that could sit there were leg challenged or indeed small children.
I resemble that remark, David.
I'll let that hang. But notionally, it was a touring car, and that's how Mazda got it with the RM7, because they said that if Porsche could do it years ago with the 911, so could we. Ours is only a 2-door coupe, but they got away with it. That's got the ANRAC questions out of the way, and the ANRAC probably dealt through. Number 61 deserves a bit of a cheer. This is the car driven at the moment by Will Bamber. One of the Intercontinental GT Challenge entries, but even on race morning they had to do a driver shuffle. Wolfgang Triller brought into that car, replacing Adrian De Silva, who for COVID-related reasons had to stand down. But that car going nicely, 23rd place, and just could keep it in the race after the drivers they had.
By the way, this has been your personal best. Car on
right now, Nicholas Nielsen is leading by 7.4 seconds. There is the Porsche number 61, as I say, driven by Will Bamber, Earl's brother. So Earl
我们搞定了台 GT 啊！
Little Bro's car that's out on track still.
His car is too, because the EBM in the team is Earl Bamber Motorsport. So yeah, now the driving duties are over. I suspect he is overseeing what this car is doing.
Now you came up with your catchphrase in 22, which was the Bamber, the Bamber, Campbell, and Janaday. So what are you going to offer me therefore? Wolfgang Triller, Carlos Rivas, Reed Parker, and Will Bamber.
I confess my brain's not working well enough at this hour.
You've got 2 hours and 21 minutes to go, Ryan. I'll let you ponder it. We'd like another hashtag for that car, please, by the very end.
No, I don't think it's going to roll off the tongue quite the same way.
As Bam Jam.
Yes.
We've got the drive-through being offered up on the screen for 18 KCFG, and we've got rain falling. Now, Porsche, your weatherman needs sacking, because Justin told us that he's not going to rain during the event. The rain comes down over at Blanchimont. So find an app you like, and rain coming heavily, quickly, all of a sudden.
Now, you know who this helps, I think, is Ross Gunn in the 95. Anyway, this is the car. It's slightly out of sequence to the top two, so I think he was due to come in either this lap or the next one. This then should put him back on the same sequence as the two cars that they've been chasing. This is the break they've been waiting for.
It is, but they've got one more. They might need 2 pit stops. We need to see how the pace of the race pans out, because it's all down to stint time and whether they can get away with just one more stop. But you're right, this is absolutely on schedule for them. They were due on 5:04. This is the end of 5:04. That rain has been absolutely.
这个拼晚刹子的，
What are they going to do? They're going to go on to
在这个直线段前就取到超人。
enough just yet. We're looking at 95 Aston Martin. It has pitted back on schedule, and even though the rain is falling, the slick tyres are going back onto the car. Now, what we don't yet know is whether it's raining all the way around the circuit. It's raining where we are at the start-finish line, which is where the team is. But Ross Gunn has been out there, and he will have said dry, dry, dry in various places, but wet somewhere else. But there's rain falling, there's blue sky. One suggestion is that this rain will last for about 10 minutes only, so if you can brave it out and warm tyres that are still giving you the traction, you can save the pit stop for fear of going onto the wrong car.
Yeah, might have got ahead of himself if this is indeed a brief rain shower, and the decision to go back to the switch probably for that reason, plus the intel relay back to go. Maybe this doesn't quite play into the Aston's hands quite as well as I had hoped. Yep, at the moment, it looks like Iron Lings continue with their car continue to run. What does WRT do?
这阿巴也真难。
The windshield wipers going, the rain coming down, but lessening, it would appear somewhat, at least here. Who knows, though, on the other side of the circuit, what it looks like.
A break in the cloud above us, blue sky looming over the grandstand opposite. And so, yes, it can be greasy for a lap or two, but I don't think any more than that.
For what it's worth, Van der Linde, for the first time in some time, actually took a chunk out of the lead on that lap. So, in these mixed conditions, he is starting to rise to the fore.
我们还是很清上来，我看到。
And you can understand why, but to my eye, look really rather cautious going that rally on that time. Now, if it's raining and you're on slicks and it's rally on and you've got a bit of a lead, yes, be cautious, but it's going to be interesting to see how much has been taken out of the advantage. At the start of the lap, it was 6.4 seconds, and in the first sector, a 45.7 from the Ferrari and a 45.2 out of the Audi, so only half a second pullback.
That is still a decent chunk, and I think it speaks to Van der Linde needing to be a bit more aggressive in these conditions than the race leader perhaps is. Seeing this as a chance to make up some of that deficit before they turn the car over in the final couple of stints, presumably to Dries Vanthoor. So one other thought, like you say, with the Aston probably needing to do an additional stop to what these two will do. That's another incentive for them to stay out and brave these conditions. In order to stay
前面那只是熊猫吗？它车上那还是熊猫？那只是熊猫吗？黑色这台 AMG。Oh my god！ 哦 shit！ 哦，我觉得我要被喷罚了。
Of the Robin Fry's Audi, but if he does need to make an extra stop, then number 37 could get into the top 3. But I'm sure that Garage 59 grades are working on this as well. But for the the moment. Ross
评
Gunn,
分判
a
罚，
waterproof gun, staying behind the wheel in 95.
Take a look at the gap, and it does come down 3 more tenths of a second through that sector that we were looking at right there. So 5.6, this lap started at 6.4, nearly 1 second gain by the Audi. Now we've got lap traffic for the Ferrari to deal with. Never mind the conditions. Now you're passing one of the fastest, if not the fastest, Silver Cup car in the race. That Silver Cup car is not going easy, is it? So that's going to hold up Nicholas Nielsen even further. Kelvin van der Linde through the chicane. Drag race down the pit straight here with the Mad Panda Motorsports car not wanting to drop another lap to the overall leader. Then forces Nielsen on the defensive.
Does indeed. Yeah, that Panda doesn't like the rain, does it? So the Mad Panda Motorsport car, Patrick Wheeler leading his class still.
What?
There's the Audi over the line, the gap 5.5 seconds, and that time through Kelvin van der Linde was quicker. They had that great scrap, didn't they, at the start of the stint in the traffic. And look at the sheen on the road. It's not wet, it's not dry, it's just greasy, it is just slippery. And with number 18 having gone through for his drive-through penalty, Wheeler there in the Mad Panda Mercedes is up into 11th place overall.
And I think not just the drive-through penalty, but Imperatori has been in the pits for something else because the stint length has reset. So we're getting word that they may have gone to wets as a roll of the dice to see if that can't elevate their car. So that pass we saw was more for overall position, albeit out of class. And that drops Imperatori out of 11th down to 12th on the overall order. And I'm very curious to see what he'll be able to do on the wet weather tires.
He'll come back in. I mean, it's drying out far too quickly. If they have gone on to wet, then that's the wrong form, isn't it? It's just not wet enough. It's not even damp. It's just
我觉得进攻段就是在最后那边，最后一条直线。
The counter argument is they're not really in contention if they do the same thing everyone does anyway. They might as well roll the dice, see what it comes up with, and as Caesar said, alle ayanta est, the die is cast for
但是我前面好像只剩这一些车哎，第一名真的跑远哎。
What is it cast for Team WRT, the Audi Sports WRT entry here of Kelvin van der Linde, wiper on.
跟真实耐力赛很像。
First sector of this lap, but it's really cat and mouse between the two of them. We are almost at the mark with 2 hours to go, and they're down to the right of Campos goes number 32. So Kelvin van der Linde presses on. Now, if the weather is heading, I think it is, away from us down towards this section of the circuit, this is where it's going to be greasy for a bit, but it's going to be drier back at the end of the lap. So you see all that rubber jump to one side, and there's only really now one line through, isn't there? You have to sort of slalom your way on that racing line around all of the junk rubber to the left and right. But this is the second place car, Kelvin van der Linde, still chasing as he gets to the chicane. Van der Linde deep into the chicane there, scrambles his way around, and that's compromised the lap. So there's evidence that even though it might have stopped raining, the road is still slippy enough to catch you out, and the gap would have opened up as a result. That last sector, Van der Linde a bit slower, only by 4 tenths, but the gap's up to 5.8 again.
Does lose a little bit of ground there. Let's take a look at this replay. Right to be down on this car that had led early in this race. David has had a heap of penalties to deal with.
Absolutely interesting that a punctured tyre should come. We haven't had many of them in the race, which is good news for Pirelli. Now, why has that happened? Has he run over something? Has he cut the car? Either way, look at Bortolotti in. That was a big drop down. Wasn't quite savage that. I felt that from here, but he's away now.
Had to feel for this team. They ran so strongly early in the race. Really looked like they were in a position to be there to challenge. And between 2 drive-through penalties for speeding into pit lane, 1 for contact. Now this puncture. Sometimes the luck just doesn't fall your way. That appears to be the case. And that's going to leave Lamborghini still seeking its first win at this race. They've won most of the major endurance races in the world right now. The one thing that makes this one different compared to many of them, the Nürburgring being one exception, is that GT3 is the top class. They can get an overall 24-hour race win here, and I know Giorgio Sana, who oversees the racing along the way, this is the one he wants. This is the scalp they want to pin along.
He's racing it himself, and he definitely wants to win it. In silver, the gap is
如果在湿地能不开 TCABS 开赛车的，应该还是真的高手。
seconds now, as although the wiper is on for Chris Froggatt, the rain has pretty much stopped. This is the car that is fourth currently within the Pro Am contest. Down towards Vassos he goes. Morgan turns it in, and he in turn is being chased by Will Bandler in the number 61 portion that we had a look at, but the gap between those is still suitably great to preserve the Ferrari's pace.
Imperatori, by the way, still out there
好像刚刚看斯帕有看到这台赛车哎，这个车应该是这个车队。
The last time around, compare that to 2:29 for our leader. So we're nowhere near the optimal time, the optimal condition, but even still, that goes to show this track was not ready for rain tires. Again, I don't fault them for the roll of the dice in the position where they were, but it just proved to be a tad too soon, KC&G.
You're right. I mean, they could have been heroes on that. I'm interested that he's staying out.
这个开法专业的才是这样。
Get sticks back onto that car and pick up the pace again. Because if he hasn't already lost the pace to Max Werfer, he soon will. Number 99 chasing on behind with margin of 8.7 seconds at the start of this lap. So the gap's coming down as Imperatori rides the curve here, coming out of the corner.
Well done, mate. The fastest lap so far.
鱼好像变小了，是不是？
Imperatori goes through the pit path on its wet tyres, and you can see that they are not ideal because the car just does not have the proper pace anymore.
It's basically like trying to track your road car with street tires, effectively, with the treaded tires versus what was out there as far as the racing slicks are concerned. Should highlight again that this is a brand new wet weather tire that Pirelli is debuting here this weekend, and one of the things that John talked about, having spoken to a Pirelli engineer, was that the tipping point between wet and dry was maybe less extreme.
哎呀，好不容易往前追，又自己失误了。引擎好挤啊，8哦。
Too extreme for that to come into play. As you said, David, it was very clear that Imperatori, the Shanghai-based driver for Hong Kong-based KC&G, just does not have the right set of boots on that Porsche.
And he's made an interesting career move, Alexander Imperatori, and actually Dan Wells that we talked about in Lamborghini Super.
刚第一弯太晚刹。
in the weekend, he's another that made that move very early on to go out to China to make a living and to earn money as a racing driver. And although they drop off the European radar a bit, they have a good living. And Imperatori has been brought back initially with the Falcon team, Falcon tyres, Motorsport squad, and now with KC&G. And still a quick driver, but one that to an extent flies under that European radar because you just don't see enough of him over here. You're looking at Van der Linde. He is still charging along in second place. They get 5.5 seconds, and he has pulled back a couple of tenths in each of the sectors on this lap. So he's certainly not giving up.
No, there's no lack of fight.
追到前面那个集
There's no
团
lack
啊
of！ fight in Kelvin van der Linde, and he's doing his best to stay within contact of Nielsen in the last few laps in these conditions. Oh, as I say that, he goes off deep into the braking zone there in the chicane. Just trying to find the limits of the grip available and exceeding them ever so slightly. So all of that progress we were just talking about, which is coming fits and starts, he throws away to some degree. But we saw Nielsen pitch that car sideways here into the source. So it's not easy for anyone, even the race leaders.
This is where it becomes really interesting, isn't it? To see who the drivers are, because again, if you're catching, just get that little bit anxious on the throttle, and suddenly you realise that the grip wasn't there. Look at that, you don't know whether it's wet or dry. That's just a really shiny, greasy surface. The lead gap 5.6 seconds then as they went over the timing line. And Kelvin van der Linde tries to reduce the deficit against that leading car, as he has done really since 6 o'clock this morning.
结束了，对啊。
We understand from
但我的还在跑。
that it was debris that the Lamborghini ran over to slice that tyre. But you make one step forward and then another one back, it seems.
No shortage of debris, as you can see, sprinkled around the track. That's the nature of a race of this length. A lot of that is tire marbles, but there's going to be bits of carbon fiber from contact. There's going to be gravel drug up onto the racetrack from Aaron's cars. So, yeah, that's part of the challenge when you have to go offline, which is what you got to do if you're going to pass or be passed. It puts you in a compromised spot.
All that mayonnaise,
雨天呢？雨天真的超滑了。 非常难开。非常非常难开。为什么都会吐了？火车不是不容易吐吗？还是烂到吐了？
Number 7 Mercedes started from the pit lane. Yesterday morning, the driver lineup change because Sergei Bastian had to stand down. Axel Jeffries, the Zimbabwean driver, was given the call. He got to the circuit, a bit like Wolfgang Triller in the 61 Porsche. Hadn't driven the car this weekend, but he had driven in the race in seasons past. He'd driven this type of car, and he'd driven for his team. So the steward said, yeah, okay, we'll let you do all that. You can drive. But it meant that Axel Jeffries then had to get to They had to start from the pit lane because of the driver change. That was the steward's wish. And they have actually got only a good fist of this, but they are running in 16th place overall, within the...
你看我刚一撇头就去了。
And 7 Mercedes running 4th in class, and it's a good effort. Marvin Dienst, he is an ex-Porsche driver. This number 50 Mercedes, however, has had a horrible time of it. The retro livery, remembering a class win from Hans Heyer and Clemens Schick. It's not had a good race at all. This is 14 laps down, and it's spent most of the It's a far cry from 2013 when Maxi's Hook and Gertz with Ben Schneider absolutely blitzed the race.
It's a real shame. This is such a great driver lineup when you look at Maxi Book, Maxi Getz, and Nicky Katzberg, who was drafted in to drive this car. Jelmer Berman was slated to drive it, but this was another change that was made prior to the race. Not quite as last minute as Axel Jeffries getting dropped in, but nonetheless, it just has not gone their way. Back at 39th overall, and a long ways off from trying to pick up any positions. They're 147
机车都停不下来。重玩存档，你是用什么刹车？电刹还是气刹？通常是电刹，就是主力刃机先拉电刃，然后再拉空气制刃。
They've been fighting on gamely ever since, currently running in the 30th overall position and 8th in Pro-Am.
下雨天好难。
23 Ferrari, which is the David Perel car.
我刚上去一看，然后我就蹦，哇！
22nd time penalty to serve at its next stop. Well, it is 17th spot it is, but that's got this penalty to serve, and you can see behind it on the road, Sandy Mitchell currently 3rd in Pro-Am, and he's about to get 2nd with Alessio Rivera in 52, currently in the pits, cycling through his next routine stop. So here's the Pro-Am Lamborghini. Harwell Motorsports has a really good pedigree at this circuit and in this race by winning classes, and Sandy Mitchell is aiming to at least get a podium result for the team this weekend.
要不然就是耗资自动停车吧 ，ATS 或 ATC 让你自动停车。
Goes the McLaren Rob Bell running in 8th place after a couple of drive-throughs. That's now 2 laps. And the lead gap's down again, 4.4 seconds as Dale looks to the inside line. Dives Sandy Mitchell, the reigning British GT champion. And look at the cars swerve there. They try and get the car down on a surface that just doesn't want to give up the traction.
Not wanting to give up that spot on the track either is the Ferrari, and that's going to frustrate Sandy Mitchell.
166 and
我不知道，我没有玩那个。
track limits. 166 and 50 track limits.
Well, 166 is the AM surviving Porsche, and 50 is the red Mercedes we were just looking at that is about a week behind. So that car, in the team's efforts to hustle it up the order, has overstepped the mark. Thought it had retired actually.
好难开，天哪！
Brought back into the race as there you see Marcus Winkelhoff in 9th, and that's your Pro-Am leader, isn't it? That's Matt Griffin, still at the wheel of 53.
It's been a great story, this car. They've just been plugging away at it as well. Rather
我们修正高比较另外一边吧。
under the radar, but Griffin's been very good. The car has run well, no major issues that we've seen, and you throw all those things together, especially in Pro-Am, where your inexperienced drivers can have such a huge say. Some of that is by regulation. There are minimum drive times that need to be reached by the lower graded drivers in these Pro-Am lineups. So when the pros are relatively equal and the teams are also good, it often does come down to the AMs in the Pro-Am lineups. If they're able to keep their nose clean and run a decent pace, there's a very good chance he come out.
And if the pro can work with the AM and develop him, because there's more time to be found there, isn't there? So don't just do your job and walk away, but work with the AM and help him and develop him and make him go quicker. We are ready then for the next round of stops. We're expecting the Ferrari in on this lap, which is lap 5:12. It would then do one more on lap 5:39 and then go to the end of the race. 32 Audi will be in, we expect, on lap 5:13, so the one after this, and then again on 5:40, and then it can run to the end. But the WRT pit stop has got to be a really quick one. Again, last stop, it dropped some time against the Ferrari. But the Iron Links team in first. There's 99 Max Puffer bringing the.
所以我觉得它的维修站设置配置不好，就是及时的更新什么的，就是加油啊之类的，没办法及时。
Here's your race leader then, down to the chicane. We're about to flick over the 2 hours to go mark into the chicane. Should be in this time. The team is ready. Shortens the line by clambering up the curb, and in comes Nicholas Nielsen.
It's been a really nice stint for the youngster Nicholas Nielsen, who will turn it over to his much more experienced colleague Alessandro Pierguidi, the reigning GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup champion, now to get behind the wheel, presumably for the final 2 hours.
I would expect so. Pace having been okay, but not quite as good in that earlier stint. So Kelvin van der Linde takes over the race lead for the moment.
我是说这边呢？你是说返回吗
race leading car then. Ferrari number 51 gives up its lead to pit. Kelvin van der Linde will get 1 lap on his own effectively before he needs to come in on a 27-lap stint. New tyres and slicks again, look, going onto the Ferrari, showing the scars of battle down that left-hand side. So the door closes. Giacomo Piccini, the team manager at Iron Links, oversees the pit stop, will give the instruction when the Delta time is completed to drop the car down and release it.
We saw the TalkSport number 7 Mercedes release just ahead of Kelvin van der Linde. He needs to be fast on his in-lap, but he got held up. He was not able to get around that car into Les Combes. He's still stuck behind it, making the turn into Bruxelles right now. So that is costly, especially if Pierguidi can get out with some clean track and turn in some fast laps of his own. There you see the Audi finally able to make that pass, but not without significant delay.
Exactly, but is the number 51 Ferrari going to encounter any traffic when it is released? Because the danger is there's a whole wave of cars up the road. There is the Audi Sport GWRT crew ready and waiting, and this is Kelvin van der Linde's in-lap. Is he going to be giving it over to Dries van Toor on this pit stop, or are they going to just leave him in for the next one and put Dries in for the last hour? There is another pit stop for each of the top 2 to make. There is number 51 Ferrari then, making its way down the pit lane, so it will give up the lead pro tem. There is 32. You can see the way that he's charging, the way that he's gobbling up the rear estate against the Pro-Am Ferrari up the road of Matt Griffin. Yeah, of course a car heading his class. So 001 on the Lumirang display on the windscreen. It is in P1. Out of Blanchimont, here comes the Audi, and that is about to make its way into the chicane. Brakes hard, too late, bit of understeer. He's going to miss pit in if he's not careful, and he just scrabbled it round the corner and gets in, but that was touch and go.
It was, and it would have had major implications had he missed it, because they cannot afford to do another lap without rolling up the stint. They're at 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 18 seconds. They can't go over 1 hour, 5 minutes.
And just to mention one other thing, in Pro-Am, the second place car is being investigated for speeding in the pit lane. Number 52, a Corsa car, and Alessio Rovella at the wheel of it. He brought it in and he took it out. He's being looked at for speeding in the pit lane, so that could be a well. Second place with now less than 2 hours to go. In comes the number 32 Audi then. Driver change will cycle through. New tyres, tank of fuel. Now the pit stop that was done by number 51, the Ferrari, was 1 minute 56.5 seconds. They can't afford to drop seconds and tenths, that's for sure, against that time done by Iron Links.
The remarkable thing about what Iron Links has done, this is a relatively young team, only founded in 2017. They've been matching wits on strategy and skill as far as the pit stops are concerned with the team that is considered the best in the paddock, WRT, and they've not lost an inch.
I mentioned early on in the race that WRT not only as a team has won this, but the people involved in it, Vincent Vos, Pierre Dieudonné, Thierry Tassin, they won it as drivers. Iron Links is headed by Andrea Piccini, he's won it as a driver. Does it help, therefore, to have somebody that's now in a team principal role? Discuss.
It can't hurt, which would be the simple answer. I mean, it has to add some perspective, some sympathy with what the driver is experiencing, maybe better communication between the two, but yeah, without a doubt, that can't be a negative to have that experience on the box.
Right, here is the Ferrari then, across the line. You've just seen 32 Audi making its way down the pit lane, but it's got that long drive down the hill. It's going to lose the lead again. Almost looks like he's holding up the Ferrari there in the pit lane. That you expect to see in a moment the 51 Ferrari come through. It will do. Now he's going to get the lead back again. And again, the Audi has dropped time on the pits. 1:57.9. It's lost over a second to get on that last pit stop.
That was definitely part of it. The other part of the equation was catching traffic at the wrong time. Remember that number 7 car that was released, and no fault of their own, but it came out of the pits right there in front of Vanderlinde when he was trying to go as fast as possible on his in-lap, and it cost him a lot of time right here. This whole next sector of the track, he was stuck behind that Mercedes, couldn't put his ultimate pace out there, and that, coupled with a slightly slower pit stop, has them down with a significant deficit to try and overcome in the final 2 hours.
So again, now you've got the Audi making its way down into Bruxelles, and the number 32 Audi trying to get back onto terms with the Ferrari. And look at the way the car is being driven. There is so much urgency in this. It might be an outlap, but there's no time being wasted, is there, thinking about getting it up to speed or up to temperature, because the car is being driven absolutely flat out. At the end of the lap, although what our starting point this penultimate stint of the race is, in terms of the gap between the 2 cars, but we are still building up nicely to a grandstand finish, aren't we? And these two have been at it all day long.
These 2 drivers, these 2 teams, I mean, they've just been at it hammer and tongs really since the overnight hours. That's when they emerged. There were a bunch of different competing strategies going on at that time, and all of a sudden overnight, or the interventions caused everyone to get back on the same strategy. And since then, it has been 51 and 32 trading body blows, looking to see who can deliver the knockout blow to ultimately claim the big prize belt.
So
there you have the Audi heading up towards the end of the lap. More traffic to be negotiated, and is that going to favour the Ferrari rather more than the Audi this time? Well, let's see, because there are lots and lots and lots of back markers there. So the Ferrari comes over the line. Look, a wall of traffic moves for the race leader, Alessandro Pietri.
差我2秒，一直被拉开，想要举蓝旗，怎么可能？
Now under 2 hours remaining, and it is Pietri out in front. Ryan links and look at this. The windshield wipers are on again. There at Eau Rouge, this camera shot shows you it's spitting down rain once again, at least on that part of the racetrack. So another wrench in the works. Who does this benefit?
SCGT. Oh, 换驾驶。
seconds at the start of the lap was the margin.
Car on the left.
But now the traffic is going to have to be dealt with first of all by Pietri, so you can anticipate the gap to come down as he gets through it, and then maybe stretch again. But the wipers are on, suggesting that yet again we're looking at a wet road.
Yeah, we saw just a little bit of rain.
我蓝旗干嘛？
Shut up, Eau Rouge, just a few moments ago. Where exactly it's affecting the racetrack and to what degree, that becomes the question. Certainly it's the very early stages of this little squall that has moved its way over the circuits. Looking a little wide that time was the 32 Audi.
落后人家1圈嘛，我连20秒都落后1圈。
But I mean, scoring still saying Kelvin Vanderlinde behind the wheel.
I thought we'd seen a driver change. The transponder hasn't flicked over, so I thought I'd seen Dries Van Thor get on.
好像太早刹，我觉得100刹好像可以。
transponder hadn't been flicked across. It all works on a position, so each driver has a number against their.
对，因为我刚车子被撞，那个轮胎歪掉。原本在13名。
So at the moment, except for the wrong position, they just tweaked it to go to the right number to correspond to Dries Van Thor's name. I suspect race control will say in a few laps' time, if you haven't done it yourselves, can you please have a look at this, because you're sending the wrong data, because what you don't want, of course, is for the wrong driver.
还能起舞吗？还可以，绝对没问题。
52.
Speeding in the pit lane.
Drive through. Alessio Rivera.
Penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
That's what I touched on a little while ago. So Rivera is about to give up second in Pro-Am for this drive-through penalty. So the lead gap, 5.9 seconds at the moment between Pierre Guidi and Dries Van Thor. More evidence of wipers being used, and our lap times going to go up as a consequence.
I do see raindrops now here on the pit straight. This is the gap as it is.
第一次跑耐力啊，我不知道换车，我不知道它这个里面要有规定换车手的时间，我知道要换车手，但我不知道规定要换，规定要在时限内换，太眼界了。
aggressive. There's been a lot of aggression from that car already in this race, but time's starting to run out, and patience perhaps running out as well for WRT, which is trying to claw its way to a probable win from 54th on the starting grid.
And to potentially give Charles Wins then the mantle of being the youngest ever winner of the event. But right now, the Audi, Dries van Thor, not Van der Linde as it says on that movie rankings, the transponder setting is not accurate. Getting himself through the traffic without any more time wasted. It's sandwiched between cars here, isn't it, with that 911 Porsche in the hands of privateer driver getting out of the seat there. South African Kelvin van der Linde, he gets Dries van Thor, but as I say, that's got to clear the Porsche ahead now.
We will do a short full course yellow to remove debris on track in turn 13.
So a short full course yellow to remove debris. That suggests it will only be a full course yellow. Rhythm is going to be broken up at least for
越来越干了，道面应该说道面越来越干。
Full course yellow in 20 seconds.
So there, number 40 Mercedes runs up wide of the pit path for the team to get ready for the full course yellow. You can see that little bit of debris in the road.
Yellow in 10 seconds.
And the countdown will come.
Faster cars approaching.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow now.
So full course yellow, everybody slows right down, and the debris will be removed. How are we doing with your rain here, Ryan? Because wipers are on intermittent now on the leading Ferrari.
I'm seeing less of it in front of us. I'm seeing less of it.
他们开的比我们还慢，还要救蓝旗，怎么可能？
The drivers, because one thing this full course yellow will do, you're not putting the energy into the tires. You're not generating that heat. You can make the slick work for a while, even on a pretty damp track, as long as it is hot enough to make its way through that moisture. There is some moisture still coming down there, it looks like, so we will see.
4,
We're about to go green as we'll go down to the pits and join
green
Gemma.
flag, green flag.
Green flag, green flag.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to leave him in now, especially with the changing conditions. We try to do double stints now, and yeah, it's going to be spicy to the end, I think.
Faster cars approaching.
It's incredibly difficult.
Lại đây.
I think it's very difficult for the fans to really understand what we're going through in the car. You know, your engineers on the one end saying keep it on the road, but you see the P1 just, you know, a couple of colleagues ahead of you. So, you know, there's so many emotions going on in your head. You're going to try and stay cool, but at the same time you want to win probably the biggest race of the season. So, you know, it's emotions are high. I just hope we can pull it off.
Think you can do it?
I do. I think we've got the best crew. Dries in the car now. I know I have a lot of confidence in him. So, yeah, if anyone can do it, we can do it. So, let's see.
Look at this, because charging downhill, Miguel Molina overtakes the Audi on Dries van Thor. Now that was not in the game plan. Van Thor got past Robert Renault's
还有几天，耐力赛还有2个小时20分钟。
Ferraris are, that lapped car moves ahead of the Audi.
在上面，最上面。
Now he's going to get in the way. There's a bit of weaving there that you could say was to warm up the tyres. You could say it was to defend because the Audi needs to be ahead of that Ferrari.
对，他现在是给我用光头胎哦，哇操嘞！
This is bad news.
哦，还是现在跟我说光头胎是好最好。
He's absolutely tipping it down up at the top of the circuit though. It's getting more and more treacherous. You can see the rain here. They're all on slicks, remember?
Oh, this is frightening stuff. Molina, by the way, that is the lead car in Pro-Am. He's just taken the wheel there, so that is a fast Ferrari with a very fast driver behind the wheel, but that comes as no relief to Dries van Thor, who would love to get by, have clean track, no spray to deal with, and be able to try and run down Pierre Guidi. This is incredibly costly for the Audi driver, but you can't fault Molina. He's been pretty quick, and he's actually been able to extend that advantage slightly since slipping ahead.
Slipping being the opposite word, isn't it, right now, because they are always
看到时候进 P 的时候是怎样。
48 minutes of the race to go. There is number 32 then, so this is Dries van Thor at the wheel of the car. There's the lead
RCF.
just going out of the bottom of the shot. We've had a change further back as well. Nick Tandy has got up past Patrick Niederhauser after a stop, so Christopher Bies has gone through number 66 Audi. So that is the Pro-Am leader, Miguel Molina, and he has just become a real hero as far as Alessandro Pierguidi is concerned by getting ahead of number 32 Audi. And as the Ferrari accelerates up through Blanchimont, the gap is increasing again between first and second.
Yeah, pretty big jump that time. It appears.
我是有开动态啊，所以我不知道等一下会怎样。
Alone, the difference between Pierguidi and Dries Van Thorn, who is in the 32 car. So Pierguidi driving like the hero he is at the moment in really difficult conditions. They're doing their best to keep it out on the racetrack because the report is this should be a brief race. Just gotta survive it now until it stops.
Brief race shot, but then there's another one apparently that's going to be heavier with about 15 minutes to go. It's almost time, isn't it? By the web of God, how can we spice everything up late in the race? Way of doing it with the rain falling, the track greasy, the lead gap 8.5 seconds now. So again, it's advantage Ferrari. Downhill goes Pierguidi. But he is still the pioneer. Every lap he's, if you like, the first one in the line to come across the grip levels. But right now he is using all of his experience. The best lap that car has done is a 2:19. That last lap was a 2:40. So he's on the wrong side for the conditions. But it's not, we've said it so many times about weather here, not consistent around the racetrack.
Not consistent minute to minute because now I don't see anything out the window once again. It changes every 30 seconds, it seems like. At least here in this particular little rainstorm. Still stuck behind Molina, and he's got a hard-charging Porsche that isn't going anywhere either. I think that's the Rinauer-driven car that didn't cut him any slack, did he, a few moments ago when he was trying to come through and lap the out-of-class car.
That's right, so the...
前面还有喷水花起来。
You're thinking, well, why aren't they helping the quicker cars come through? But they're all in their own individual races. They don't want to give up time because they are irrelevant in the sense to the overall classification, but in their silver or pro-am or am battles, then they need to be driving at their own pace, running their own race, and not losing time against the opposition. But look at the way the Molina, having unlapped himself, is storming away. These Ferraris look ideal to greasy conditions. They're so well suited, it would appear, as there the rain falls again at Pouan.
Love to hear what Pierguidi has to say, what he's telling his team about how fun to drive that Ferrari is. It might look all right. You do see a few little twitches here and there, but nothing too dramatic. But I suspect he's got his hands full. This cannot be fun. Knowing that somewhere in between wet and dry.
多少 Horizon 4的超滑什么？你说撞车吗？ 中了还会被判安全评分判降分，安全平等扣分。哦，我刚刚那个很可以吧？内线中的内线直接把人家超烂。
Through Blanchimont, makes the run towards the chicane. Sector 1, time lost. Sector 2, time lost. So the Ferrari has got the advantage again.
Fourth place car in the pits. Nico Holder pulls in. That's the first car one lap down.
And it's also got a drive-through penalty, number 37. So whether that's or just the drive-through, I couldn't tell you at the moment. But either way, you're right, it's in the pits.
Oh!
Clear on the right. Faster car behind you.
Round Lassour's.
有扣分。
Alessandro Pierguidi, he leads the 24 hours of Spa here, starting lap 5:19. It's a lead gap of 9 seconds after 519 laps. The projection is something like 564 to 566 laps in total. If we are green all the way, we'll have had that oh-so-green full-course yellow, but that lasted just a couple of seconds, didn't it?
And the only other change that could come would be if there were sustained heavy rainfall that could affect the pace of the race to some degree also. Slow things down. Like you said, we do expect that heavy rain right around the time the race ends, whether it's 30 minutes before, 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. We'll wait and see how the team is up and down the pit lane, whether they're crossing their fingers, holding their breath, everything they need to do. Because this...
Oh, no.
You hate that something that you cannot control might be the ultimate arbiter.
我后轮快过热了，我后轮要烂掉了。地看得出来越来越干，现在剩下小雨而已。
Absence today of a co-driver who on his scooter collided with a quad bike and has hurt his nose and cut his face and has had some stitches and he's in hospital. And so Maxime Martin and Nick Tandy having to do today between them. Well, Nick's heroics last year.
会破胎吗？好像会。
And right now he's in 6th place into the chicane. I think he'll be glad when today's over.
It's amazing what can happen in 24 hours. That's just in one car.
这韩内线就比刚才还开了。
58 times over. Each of these cars has its own story to tell, and they'll all have something, some kind of war story to relay in an hour and 42 minutes.
As you can imagine, the top sport team or the EBM team that have got these different drivers, even now are still saying, who is that over there? What's he doing here? Because that was all changing around on race morning, not during qualifying.
爆胎之前会先去撞
Race day itself. This is Nick Tandy, hard at work, lovely shot there. You can see how much the concentration is and how for the pro drivers it looks easy, doesn't it? It just flows.
That's the art of it. If you make it look easy and you're going fast, then you are.
摇杆真的好难打这个连续弯哦，因为回来的角度完全不一样。然后这种小弯我有办法维持可以，连续弯很难找到那个切入的角度，你知道吗？ 尤其是左右转换都会不小心推太多。Sector 3黄旗，然后刚刚有人开出去吗？
So Nick Tandy, a familiar face stateside for his Corvette exploits nowadays, Le Mans winner.
没开出去的轮胎是在。
Aren't many things that he hasn't won really as a sports car or a GT racer. Came out of junior stock car racing, mini stocks many years ago. He and his late brother Joe, their father was an oval racer. Joe Tandy Senior had remarkable success with an antiquated Ford Anglia. Racing, but Nick has become part of the Porsche family, now part of the Corvette family, but he's about to lose a place, I fear. Number 66 Audi. This is the car with the transponder issue. It keeps telling us Christopher.
他一下就要回去修。我方向机又没歪，对不对？哎，对，我看耐力赛才知道，原来如果挥黄旗套圈的是可以往前走，被套圈的是可以往前开。 然后他这一下下而已啊，亮一下下而已。然后刚刚sector挥的黄旗应该是挥舞，这边还有一台 M6。
Teams and drivers will do. Tandy has his hands full, as he has. It doesn't help that he's got those blisters quite literally all over his hands, and they throw that discomfort.
套圈是可以往前追过那些套你圈的车子是可以超的。上次是什么蒙萨六奈吧？对，我看蒙萨六奈的时候确定的，因为挥黄旗有一台车在那个哪里啊？应该算是要进 Sector 3直线之前那一个直线。就是有一个下上的那个蒙萨那个直线，有没有？哦，shit，哦。他在那边有一台撞掉，然后那时候黄旗出了大概2圈还3圈以上。 然后被套圈的就往前。一圈开得好烂。难道我要进再进 pit 吗？
That's another one with a transponder failure. So he keeps telling us Manuel Lau.
Faster car coming up behind you.
He does exactly the right thing to get out of the way. The blue lights flash. Of course, with this being a modern-day Formula 1 circuit, there are the equivalents of the flags, but electronically those lights giving black and white or yellow.
哦，我知道他所有车手要完成一场 stint 是什么意思了。我那3个有没有？3个车手，所有车手都要上来跑，完成过1圈。那现在就还不是维修的时候。 我手已经在，我摇杆握到已经有点在抖了。
to do the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa, its opening round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge.
And it's true of drivers, it is true of commentators, I suppose it must be said, and it is true of the teams as well. And this is the big event as far as GT3 racing is concerned, a chance to represent your respective championships. Sad news relatively recently that the GT World Challenge season will not happen. The challenges of hosting any
这里
Faster car coming up behind. Watch out.
对，可以套，你被套圈，你可以超车，你可以追越那些套你圈的人。比如说我现在被套圈，我可以往前追，但我不能超过我前面那一个。我后轮已经有点感觉是半融化加磨损，但后轮一直在飘，而且我重点是我 TC 是有开的，因为雨天不开 TC， 我刚第一段直接撞掉，刚出去的第一段就撞车。我是为了符合现在 SPA 的天气，所以我才选择了它。
Too many penalties in a number of cases and a bit of bad luck in your positioning when safety cars have been out.
That's been part of it. They also went with the different tire strategy.
如果是真实赛车的话，如果你的现在比如说我装的是雨胎嘛，然后我的轮胎有过热的嫌疑，要去开那一些还有水的地方，不然我的轮胎会消耗的太快。所以弯我一直都搞不太定，这样我觉得该进去。看起来赛车线上应该是偏干的啦。你看有没有看到这一段？外侧这一边赛车线上的地明显是干的。你有看到这一块很明显，这一块很明显。啊，认命进去。好，没有。
Another 4 tenths lost in the first sector of this lap. And yes, there's traffic around, but it's not the only answer.
No, probably not. Just wonder if these changing conditions at various times favor one brand over the other. You speculated earlier that the Ferrari looked awfully strong when there wasn't much grip to be found. That is starting to change, though, and you can tell because the drivers are starting to use the painted curbs once again. That would have been dangerously extreme when they were
有以前的银石很容易。那个开一开红旗，看不到，完全看不到。
We're hearing that maybe the traffic is having a more direct effect than perhaps we let on or were aware of before, with some catching of cars in the wrong and inopportune times. And it's not going to be done yet. He's still got a lot to try and knife through here, doesn't he?
Does indeed. So. Fan thought you could normally be a charger to get himself up through the order, but right now track conditions going against him. So the traffic, the greasy nature of the road, and the field turn up through Longchamp. There, number 63, Mirko Bortolotti, trying to get clear of the traffic. The other star in this, and you can anticipate why, a pro in the Pro-Am entry, of course, is Miguel Molina. Look, in the battle pack coming up towards the chicane, but Molina can run at the same kind of pace as the race leaders. The only reason he's not is that
你看人家3个人开3个小时，我一个人他妈要开3个小时，我不是跑12耐或24耐，至少8耐以上才一个人跑3小时。
He raced a lot in the States a couple of years back when our championship was known as Pirelli World Challenge, and won the Sprint X Championship, which at the time was the 2-driver format. There were a couple different formats that were involved in the series at that time. So made a name for himself to some degree racing there. Already had one before he came over, and it seems like he's a pretty versatile guy.
至少我们保住了这台车了，还没有坏掉，刚差一点坏掉。
Very true, another ex-DTM racer, and making the run up the hill, another ex-season graduate as well. How about this? Porsche seems to have the power here, doesn't it? Streaks past the Audi, streaks past the Lamborghini. Ferrari gets a turn, follows suit.
什么尿尿喝红茶？他妈，你看那个利曼的开2个小时，他们 LMP1 的2个小时有没有？2个小时开完，大家都直接去。
Majewski was here last weekend, right? Doing British GT and won. That's right.
That was with Dennis Lind, and Dennis Lind is in 5th place overall in the number 37.
但我的是法拉利车主啊，我拿出来轮胎是冷的。
It's such a busy racetrack with cars around, and of course with the very slippery nature of the circuit right now as we work lap 5:23 here at Spa.
不要等下又突然下大就好了哎。
The race leader is now 11.5 seconds to the good. Maybe
有没有那种半鱼胎啊？就中性胎。那利曼的都小睡一下，吃个东西啊，吃一下，喝一下，给个尿，好睡觉。反正下一班大概3-4个小时之后才轮到他。
And Ross Gunn, it's worth noting, the third of 3 cars still on the lead lap at this stage, but that Aston not quite on the right sequence. We think they're going to have to do one of the short fill pit stops to make up the difference just by virtue of being off sequence slightly. We think they'll at least owe 1 extra pit stop compared to the top 2, and in fact Ross is due in just under 20 minutes at this point. Compare that to Pierre Guidi and Dries Van Thorp, who are about halfway through their stints respectively. So the Astons did a great job staying in the picture, and a safety car at the right time can elevate them more into the picture with these top 2. Something like that as we look at the right here.
24的真的很可怕，24非常可怕。
I think having done a bit of number crunching, it's more the stint time, more than the fuel consumption that might go against them now. They could get around that problem by just driving down the pit lane to reset it, but they also then lose a big chunk of time to the car behind. Now, the safety car would bring them closer to the traffic ahead, you're right, but also the traffic behind closer to them. So, yeah, we need to see really where they stand in terms of time to go after their next pit stop. But I reckon they're 8 laps away.
可是我现在手是酸，很酸的。我开了1个小时，好硬核哦。
That's the way we've been looking at it for some time now.
已经有点快跟不上。
Changing to alter that line of thinking.
后开台了。怎样 ？GT3 统规赛啊，911 GT3。
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
为什么选现实？因为现实有跑啊。不然我选30分钟冲刺赛就好了。哦。 那谁哦 ，iRacing 也是蛮厉害的这个赛车模拟软体。基本要没雨了，你看车窗上雨点越来越少。这个轮胎工作温度起不来，我们要多跑一些干的地方。跟刚刚的策略要不一样。那这外侧是干的，内侧是湿的，倒面。
Pit stop times, the leading car has spent a bit longer in the pits, 47 minutes. Have a look a little bit further down at number 66, only 43 minutes because it missed a pit stop yesterday.
GT3 没有中性胎可以选，不然这个时间中性胎应该是最强。
Sometime I got pitting, it lost time. I had to go very slowly for the best part of an hour on the wrong tyres. But fascinating to see, even with
方向盘会好一点吗？
more than 2 minutes over the second place car in the pits, the Ferrari still has the advantage because pace and fuel consumption, all these factors have been in its favour. And there, 46 minutes in the pits for the number 95.
开 GT3 耐力赛方向盘开1个小时，那应该是健身，不是在开车。你要搞清楚它差别。GT3 很重手，那个不像你一般开车转向辅助，那我随便拨一下就过去。没有 ，GT3 方向盘很重。
So, whether we have rain or we have shine, John Watson, it does look as though we have the Ferrari as the quickest car.
好丑。
The margin going up and up all the time, 11.9 seconds right now over number 32 Audi. There's the leader, that is Alessandro Piaguini. In the background, Kelvin van der Linde having given away the Dries Van Thorp, watching on. Dries is hustling the Audi along, but just not being able to make that car really do much about the lead gap. It's still Ferrari looking strong right now here at Spa. Now, last time around, the gap was slightly down between the top 2, but it's crept up again in the first sector. Whatever happens in this race, 51 Ferrari just looks so strong.
I have to say it's looked absolutely imperious all the way through, and I gather that one of the drives of the event was actually Alessandro Piaguini during the night when he set some absolute sensational lap time.
不是啊，欧卡比这个还无聊。
Hovering over parts of the
至少竞速类的不会睡着，但欧卡会啊。然后这是行车线责任嘛。
I've also been told by my friendly meteorologist in the press room that the final 10 minutes of the race will be wet.
哦，这样子，这次首先就对。
Well, we've had a brief show.
前面我也了解我一下。
Find a weather app that you like, really, for the outcome of the race. Seems to be the go at the moment, but the road is drying again. It never really became properly wet. It just became really greasy, didn't it?
It looked tricky enough because if you were staying on slickers, I suspect the most
Car on the right.
did. Then it requires again an extra level.
Clear on the right. Faster car coming down behind you.
Track limit abuses in the middle that have gone with it. And on slick tires, if you allow the tire temperature to drop down,
有感觉嘞，道面越来越干，加减速跟刹车速度都加速的速度跟刹车的速度都越来越快。可是过弯不知道因为工作温度还没有起来，然后我走的线也不是最好，都没有过弯的技术反而没那么高。
We've been talking a lot in this race about the AWS graphics. Steve Taylor at TSL, who's been looking after much of that, he's also looking at weather for us. He reckons that with 25 to 30 minutes, 35 to 30 minutes of the race remaining, the rain will come. It's going to start light and then get heavy. That is the next prediction. That's off an app rather than data, I suspect. But anyway, rain is forecast. More and more people going with it. And, that's something else that the teams are having to factor in here.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
You're looking at the car that leads the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa. It is the Ferrari Iron Links, the team. Alessandro Pierguidi at the wheel of it, and he comes through Paul with an advantage of 12.7 seconds over Kelvin.
这边是什么？911。
He goes into the pit path, still being able to control the pace. And not Kelvin Van der Linde, I'll tell you what, Dries Van Voort has taken over. The transponder issue still prevails on that car. And this is the leading Ferrari. Let's just remind ourselves what has been going on in a busy race thus far with just under an hour and a half to go. Rafael Marciello started on pole position and he had the advantage on the run down towards Eau Rouge for the first time. Marco Bortolotti lining up with him on the front.
有啊，你说紧追气的那个是追气系列赛，对不对？
Slotting into second and Uwe Stolz third in number 4 Mercedes. 56 started on the road.
自在参加与完成。
Down the hill through Eau Rouge for the first time. Then that spectacular car up the right.
Drive through penalty to car 17. Drive through
这是街头系列嘛，还有是追气系列有啊。
The cars battle their way through the first few laps of action. Number 51 of Alessandro Pierguidi under attack from Christopher Mies. And then we have an incident at the top of Radion. That brought out a long full-course yellow period followed by a safety car. And many of the teams taking an early opportunity to do something clever on the strategy. Fill up with fuel, maybe change tyres, maybe cycle through drivers as well. And use the slower driver to get rid of some of his allotted stint time and keep your quick driver for proper green flag conditions. Safety car was deployed to release the field. Well, we went racing once again though. The rain started to fall. The circuit began as a greasy track surface, and then it became properly wet. Some decided to go early and go on.
Radio 刚刚有一段我不知道喊啥，就是那个 Fast Car Behind You 以前。
Doing at least another lap.
没有听清楚。
Then Marco Bortolotti, then Cavrenaga all realised that wasn't the answer, and they had to go up the escape road and back into the pit lane. Nico Müller and the mother and father of all moments of Eau Rouge came oh so close to the edge, flirting with disaster. Christopher Mies stayed out on slicks in the rain, waiting for the road to come back to him. It eventually did, but he lost the best part of the lap while he tiptoed around on the.
都没有收到爆胎的警告，爆胎应该就爆了。
Tim, who got squeezed onto the grass in the number 95 Aston, was back trying to get up through the traffic. And many of the drivers running out wide through turn 19 at the end of the lap, exploring the outer reaches of the circuit as Francesco Zolo's Ferrari had a spin out of Speaker's corner. And that
Car on the left.
situation
488就给我滚呐！
Clear on the left.
There were plenty of battles on the restart, but a few ducked out of the traffic to cycle through their next pit stop, including 88 Mercedes today. There, that car eager for the points at the 6 and 12-hour mark, but ultimately he will be out of the race as Brendan Reeve and Rob Bell and the McLarens came together, rather embarrassingly, out of the chicane. BMW, Timo Glock is another car trying to gain ground against Ollie Milroy.
哦，凯利科 GTF 吧，凯利科吧。
With 38 McLaren, which looked to have the advantage coming out of the chicane, but backed off, so it didn't get a track limit penalty. However, still racked up enough to bring number 38
哦，你太早转。
drive through as 63 Lamborghini positioned itself.
刹车点是对的，但方向盘提早打。
Leading towards the evening, some of the teams trying to catch up on a little bit of rest. The gap though between the leaders came down. It was a raging ball ahead of a prancing horse as Alessandro Piaguini hunting down
Faster car behind you.
Lamborghini. And contact was made with the front of the Ferrari just slicing a little bit of the diffuser away from the Lamborghini as Piaguini made his move around the outside, fell over the curb and elbowed his way back onto the circuit through Link Hall. We have that traditional Spa pit lane view as well as the
我右后轮我真的胎压都偏低耶。 还对劲。
Things were looking good for Iron Links and for the FFM.
Car on the left.
Lots of good development horse there.
Faster car coming up behind. Watch out. Clear on the left.
Into the pit lane. We have more dramas out.
内线之内线。
Campus. And then the number 19 Pro-Am Lamborghini.
Yellow flag in sector 3.
Yellow flag in sector 3.
Real old deluge in that car developing confidence in the pit lane. 63 in a battle on track, losing position. Phil Keane in number 19 though, lost the lights, hit the brake and went straight on down at Campus. That car would be retired, and so too a distraught Thomas Neubauer as the number 35 BMW with suspension issues was out of the race at roughly the same time as 34, the sister car of David Pittard, and engine maladies in it too with the retirement. The AM class Porsches got themselves side by side rounding their source. Gearbox dramas on 188 Aston Martin did for that out of the Pro Am contest as well. Pit stop cycle through for 32, car blasting away, but then 63 Lamborghini got involved with the number 3 Porsche, the Schnabel engineering entry out of the race.
Hey. 晚杀了，我忘记去看了啊！
Waiting for pit stop from their car, the Rinaldi Ferrari getting involved with the Man Panda Motorsport Mercedes. It was a grumpy Panda that got turned around. Shredding time for the number 30 Audi brought that into the pits and the battle through to Sunday morning. Continued on their way, except for 88, a broken damper, bringing that car into the pits of retirement. Number 16 Clement Schmidt into the gravel, and 51 into a comfortable lead. Then another full-course yellow and safety car to remove the orange Lamborghini. Then dramas here at the chicane. Number 31 Audi turned sideways. Dennis Busch getting involved with the 166 Porsche. He lost his AM lead to there. Nicky Leutwiler, he ultimately would crash out at 166 after a long pit stop, rejoined the race. Nick Tandy getting into 47. Nicky Leutwiler getting into the tyres at the top of Radion. That brought out full-course yellow and the safety car once more.
哇，听证，哇，有点硬核。
Down towards the source as with a bit of help around went Jonathan Wee. He was tagged by number 63 Lamborghini, for which the car off to penalty. Right backwards in the traffic coming over the line.
台湾走17度了，非常的不足。
But not indefinitely. It's 37 Audi and WRT round the outside. Robin finds Nico Muller, Dennis Lynn, the drivers, are making up places all the time, hunting for a podium. As 159, Silver Cap Aston Martin was trading the lead with a Man Panda Mercedes. Maxime Martin took over for 911 Porsche giving a bit of a hip shoulder down at turn 9, forcing it out wide. And number 47 KCMG entry to a frustrated Nick Tandy, losing paces there. Trying to make his way through the traffic as rapidly as he could, but the Porsches seeming to be down onto the BOP for this race, and Nick Tandy getting more and more frustrated as that 63 Lamborghini came by as well. Marco Vanelli having made a
Oh shit! Hey!
find a way past. Ferrari versus Audi for the lead. They just got themselves close to tail when in came the Ferrari. A lap apart of the sequence of pit stops, but it is a very tense fight between them, or it has been, although the gap of late just creeping up a little bit more. Marcus being on into the back of Barwell, Lamborghini forcing that out wide.
你也要去力宝吗？我要去力宝要干嘛？我怎么去跑呢？我连车都没有要跑上。
Kelvin Van der Linde had to lift off and slot back in behind number 51. That's how close they had been, but then over the next stint, the gap's
所以现在 Lambo 有在看，好不好？我是忠实的 Lambo 粉丝，我连赛车游戏都要开着 GT3 才受得了。Hurricane GT3 啊，他们可以邀请我去参加他们的试驾，那就非常 OK。
Number 53, Miguel Molina in the car that is now leading quite comfortably in Pro-Am. So with an hour and 17 minutes to go, this is the race leading car. It is Alessandro Pierguidi in the wheel of it, and 18 seconds the margin. That's come down a little bit therefore over Kelvin Van der Linde, but the advantage is still very much with Ferrari, not only overall but also Pro-Am, where it is a 1, 2, 3 right now for Ferraris, so this could be the ideal Spa 24 hours as far as Ferrari is concerned. As Alessandro Pierguidi continues to lead here at Spa. Through Brussels for the 530th time, we're looking at something like 564, maximum 566 laps in this race. Goes 51 Ferrari and Alessandro Pierguidi. It's almost too good to be true this for them, isn't it?
I mean, what they're doing now is really robbing Audi's notion and then managed to consolidate this over period nearly an hour ago now and pulling out an 18-second advantage by the lap. Bruce Van Forward in the previous stint was absolutely imperious.
现在是小雨下不停哎。
a real battle, but subsequently we're now seeing the Ferrari Alessandro Pierguidi just continue.
有啦，地越来越干了，地至少是有在变干。
Now the gap has come down over that last lap.
哦，这样开法才是最正确的。
There was Ross Gunn giving way. It's got to be getting teeth for the end, hasn't it? So that car comes in slightly early by 1 lap. It's come in early, so 5:30.
他们那个，我刚看Spa 24都是用内侧，刚那个高速弯是用内侧去吃路缘，整个外侧要抛到外面去。
So large he climbed, come back with 18-second deficit back. Traffic will always have a part to play. He gets right through the traffic cleanly, but it's inevitable that you get a clear lap and then all of a sudden in the process you're running into another group of cars. And there is the Lamborghini right ahead of it, but that's a lap down.
手快不行。
Back on the 2 lead cars. 3 of the Aston Martin going down the lap.
Yeah, it's Marco Sorensen, in fact, taking over that big team. So Nicky, having done the best lap of the race, thought they would have put in for the end, but no, it's his fellow countryman Marco Sorensen, part of the Dane train that Aston Martin Racing has had. He will bring it to the end. So an hour and a quarter to go, but the Aston is going to have to make another stop.
BMW.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
It's going to be a genuine fight, or it's so far ahead, it's going to be okay to maintain that.
Faster car coming up behind you.
So there is Van Thorpe, and in the first
Never.
section of this lap, now that the road is getting drier, he's lost 0.6 of a second. It's just not happening for Audi. Close.
雨又变大了。
Cigar.
Exactly, and it's difficult to see where it is.
好像雨点又变多了，是我的错觉吗？
The Audi's lack of patience.
而且刚开始的时候，赛道上还是有积水的，有水坑。
Ferrari have just
我连用手把我都感觉得到有水坑。
continuously running excellent lap time, 2:21 to 2:20, and
哦，真的很搞哎。
So 32 Audi.
预报哪边有预报？左下吗？还是他的 radio？
Doing his best. That's the leading car still. 51 Alessandro Piegrini. This has dominated this race. Remember,
轮胎上面
for GT
哦
World Challenge Europe,
这是10分钟后的意思吗？
At the 6-hour mark, it led. At the 12-hour mark, it led. At the 24-hour mark, it's an hour and a quarter away.
哦，我终于知道那个是干嘛用的了。
Jackpot race for Iron Links.
哦，
Team.
我现在下小雨，等下是中雨，然后大雨，等真的下来再说吧。他会提醒我进去换。
It's been a long time coming. Domination mainly from the German brands Audi, Porsche, BMW. Looks like Ferrari maybe.
欢迎那个台湾兰博基尼邀请我去地表赛这场事情。Welcome.
So the Ferrari leads, but why is Dries Van Voort losing pace? Well, Charles Weers might have the answer to this. He's at the pit lane with Gemma.
Dries seems to be losing some pace. What's happening?
这已经是 GT3 Evo 了。 刚硬把轮胎扭回来，本来上次就输了。丢！我要趁直线松手。
Would you prefer it to dry out or the rain to fall?
Definitely not those conditions where it's mixed. I would say that big shower would be probably good for us. If possible, just after the pit stop for everybody. So yeah, we can do a quick pit stop and we know how good our guys are. That would be the best case scenario for us, definitely.
我们越来越湿哎。
Not controlling the weather yet, so let's wait and see where it's from.
And you've got no more driver changes planned?
No, so we should go normally until the end for the double. So yeah, I'm out of duty.
有点想要继续换胎了，但我这一轮才开20分钟就换胎了，好亏哦。再等一下哈。
So Dries Van Voort throwing everything at it, but he might be set to lose more time if he oversteps the track limits yet again.
Precarious position for Dries Van Voort to be in. He knows he has to push. He knows if the track gets.
他那个没办法用自定车哎。他这个模式没办法用自定车。Oh, my hand. 对啊，轮胎的工作温度跟气压明显还在下降，而且看哦，20万过不了，好吧，换吧，跟下去每圈省事时间更多。
That most drivers are probably on to stay out on those drive on the slick tires. And when you get huddling on the racetrack and you're getting rivulets running across in cambered corners, but then it becomes a bit too treacherous. There is weather forecast, David, we're aware of it. When it's going to come is exactly an exact science at the present time. But it could be the final in 24 hours.
算了，我们是在参加啊，是在参加。
Exactly what you mean. Just when you think you've got a handle on it, something else changes. It's been an intriguing race this year. We haven't had anything like the same number of incidents and dramas that we normally have, but yet we have had some excellent racing and lots of stories that have unwound. And yet again, the hard luck start story seems to surround number 63. Good pace, but little reward at the end of it. There, number 20 comes down to Brussels. 27th, Colin Braun, the American driver, part of GT World Challenge America, at the wheel of the car. Good to see them making the trip over here and proving the international nature of the event. And there, 63 in the background. Mirko Bortolotti presses on, but again, the result just not coming their way.
No, but to go back to the 63, they have one orange Lamborghini. They
Lamborghini.
had 3 drive-through penalties and they also had a puncture. If you had deleted all those setbacks, they would be the car most likely leading this race. Some people say that that actually was the quickest car in the race, but because of those errors and the penalties that were levied, and of course that led the tyre issue as well, that has set them back. They're currently in 4th place, Marco Bortolotti behind the wheel, as is ever the case of the Lamborghini Huracan.
只是因为我们刚刚不用右边不用。
Mercedes thunders on towards the end of the lap, so 27 Colin Braun.
SPA 我觉得还好 ，SPA 高速为主，所以太低的胎压反而会越来越大，一点越来越多。也许我们现在进来是完全正确的。
I've always been a fan of the Mercedes AMG GT3R because, apart from anything else, it is almost the epitome of what a turnkey race car is. You buy it.
We've been given a stop-and-go penalty.
There is 51 Ferrari. Alessandro Pierguidi at the wheel of it. Can't let it go.
我等来速是不是？
Obviously, we're coming into the final hour now. The car's looking strong.
太硬了吧！我只是按错切，我只是在选那个轮胎按错切成升档而已，靠背。哇，30秒！因为我不是汉密尔顿吗？
Race can be so rude, so we need to stay focused all the way long with the track limits, with the track getting It's all about staying focused.
And Alessandro stayed until the end?
Yes, he's done this race many times. We have all learned, and I think he's the man for the situation. To be honest, he's doing a perfect job at the moment. We all did until now, so yeah, finger crossed.
It's quite a critical
Faster car coming up behind you.
on the cards in the team's first year.
Yeah, for sure. And
some severe damage at the rear.
Lost the car very early in the race.
Slow car ahead.
Team is doing a very good job.
生气。
Thanks to everything to make everything perfect inside the team. So let's try to go to that check flag.
罚停30秒的到底是三小啊？干林老师哎。
So that is the race leading Ferrari. Quick word also about 77 Lamborghini. That's dropped to 4th in class. The Barwell car, Leo Nichinsky at the wheel. The rain came, they put wets on. It dried out. They had to come back in for slick. So that's why that car has lost time and dropped to 4th place in the Pro-Am battle here as we work lap 5:34 on Spa.
Faster car approaching. Watch out.
Mercedes are being user-friendly. It's interesting, isn't it, that many of the fancy Mercedes have had all sorts of troubles, yet the privateer entries, if you like, the AM and the Silver Cup cars have done so well, or survived at least.
Calderelli indeed, and it's on the way down to the model lane, following the pit lane exit, and suddenly something has happened to the 63 Lamborghini, and no way we can tell from here what that issue is, but he's got the car and let him go. Whatever the problem was.
Drive-through penalty to car 14. Track limits.
Yes again, 28. So yeah, Calderelli gets it going.
Hey, what?
Another of those quirky electrical stop, reset it, restart it, get away, mate.
Yeah, it is, yes, it is. Okay, part 3, Mercedes AMG GT3.
Yes, quite.
I'll get there.
Go for it, John.
No, it is probably the easiest car for the AMs or the semi-pro drivers in terms of the way it responds on the racetrack. Why the
Faster car behind you.
Mercedes have seemingly struggled and had issues, I don't know. What is most amazing to me is that the one that was a dominant car in qualifying and Raffaele Marciello led initially, then they had a shock
Faster car approaching. Watch out.
I don't know what caused it, but I do know that when you come down into Eau Rouge and you make that transition, there is a massive load goes into that left rear corner. Now, whether that had anything to do with the ultimate failure, I don't know. The team will undoubtedly be investigating it because it's not something one would expect from a car as highly engineered as a Mercedes.
严重处罚。
is Alessio Rovera.
哎呀！
On slips he will go in the
好，来又有30秒的生产时
Second
间
in。class when it came in, quite a long way behind 53 of the Molina right now. And a big dent in the front panel of that car as well.
Clearly that can't be carbon fiber because carbon fiber doesn't dent.
刚刚那个直接打整个车打滑，是完全没有预想到的。
Curious to know whether that is actually an aluminium panel or a mild steel
真的。
But anyway, unless there's something about carbon fiber now that does dent if it gets an impact, other people like it.
But the race leader continues to dominate, flashing the lights, coming down the hill, and that is toward 93 of his progress. 93 is Eddie Cheever at the wheel, and he'll just get second in Pro-Am, while 52 sits at the pit lane. But now that the road drying out, the road getting faster, and that lead gap is going up all the time. 22.6 seconds now is what Pierre Guidi has over Dries Van Thor.
后边那2个 stop 叠在一起啊，鸡掰。
Ferrari here, race leading car makes its way up the hill towards Les Cols. Race leader, 51 Ferrari. This is on lap 5:36, and he's got a pit stop due, we reckon, on 5:39. So out of Les Cols goes Alessandro Pierguidi. He will take the car to the end, which is 62 minutes away. That time left in the race will be split that pit stop. There's the second place car, Dries Van Thor, 22.6 seconds back.
Come on, let's go.
Goes into Les Cols, goes right, goes left, goes right again. This car in turn, well clear of Marco Sorensen's Aston Martin in third place. All they can do now is push in the Audi. All they can do is hope that some drama befalls the Ferrari. But even so, this car from 5th to have been a contender pretty much all day as it has been. It's quite commendable to say the very least. But Van Thor will be hugely frustrated that he's just not been able to match the pace of that leading Ferrari.
And of course he's now driving the spectrum of having a
赛道3小时耐力赛，虽然手超酸，快断掉一样。好，让车让车，不要让车又开那么慢嘛。干你老师怎么这样开车啦，鸡掰！
The exit from Vanya, everybody runs wide, and I don't know what the demarcation of all that is. Whether they're turning a blind eye to what is on the track there.
然后我先就在维修站度过好了。
There's a third place car, the Garage 59 Aston Martin. Again from the Pro Cup. This is Marco Sorensen at the wheel of it. So another quality entry in that car. 3 GT stars, first, second, third. Pierre Guidi, Van Thor, and there.
真的被搞烂嘞！
Sorensen who blasts his way now up towards Blanchimont.
他明明车头没有过，然后就在硬往里面切。早知道我就直接跟他硬撞好了，扣分就扣分，撞烂他才是重点。应该是右前的动力套件坏了。
But his lap time is matching that of the 2 lead cars. So as he came through Blanchimont, he certainly had the car moving, and there was nothing left on the table in terms of performance. All the German up the hill is behind now the leading Pro-Am truck, Gail Wolner.
玩到之后还是不要随便乱升降的。那个突然涌出来扭力有点。
66 Audi, so finally driver and transponder will agree, and Christopher Mies illustrating his ability. 5th place, okay, he's a few laps down now, 3 laps down on the leader, but for that car having been
你的 T 是要多开一段的，越下越大。
early on in the race, it's been a mighty recovery from that, but the Tempo car with Christopher Mies' experience might not be quite a race-winning combination, but it's been a good run, and still with an hour to go.
然后就在这附近。
Absolutely, I mean, a good turn to play, but just be careful of the exit coming out of Blanchimont. The racetrack a little bit more. We'll get another penalty for 5th place. To see how far he is behind this car.
又要进去喽！
Driving with heavily blistered hands, and very unpleasant experience it is because you need to hold on to that steering wheel. So maybe he's been able to get some. To soften or ease the discomfort.
There's rain forecast within the next 20 minutes, I understand. So just as the sun is breaking through and the road is getting drier and faster, looks like we might be on for rain. And it's the kind of braid, but it would mean you need to pit for wet. You wouldn't be able to braid it out. Such is the expected deluge that's coming.
And that, if it comes suddenly, it could be very difficult for anybody on the racetrack at the wrong.
我没有教练，我是自学派的，我没有教练。
Turn the taps on here. It is biblical.
Spa 右弯多吧，所以内侧有没有打到吗？对啊。
Looks all right here, doesn't it? Going up towards Les Cornes, but that's in the opposite direction from La Source into the right goes the Martin Tandy car. Another raft of pit stops being completed, including the Mad Panda Mercedes there coming down the hill, and also number 99 Max Hoff just ahead of him. Triple 2 Lars Kern has taken over the blue Porsche that you see there, and the Mad Panda Mercedes is still leading in the Silver Cup, although after the pit stop will fall back, will it not, behind 159 Valentin Asclaux? Yes, it will. So Rick Brokers takes it over. It led when it came in, it's second as it goes out. But the battle is still on between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. This is one of those seesaw battles, depending on who pits where. It's going to go right down to the wire.
A bit of bonnet flap in the front of the Mad Panda Mercedes, aside from having a damaged grille. It's like the bars on a jail. Somebody's got a hacksaw out, ripped them all asunder, so that wouldn't have any bearing on the car's performance. It just aesthetically doesn't look quite as pleasing as you'd expected. But the battle is on between the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. So who will be at the end of the day the one that will come out on top?
不用起来喝水，但我只能起来喝水，不然现实赛车的时候是按一颗，有没有看到 drink 啊？喝水钮按下去就是水，从那个管子一样，喝下去了。很简单的。哎，他们是3个人开3个小时，哎，我是1个人要开3个小时。
Stroking it home now, 24 seconds to the good. I still can't quite get my head around just how bulletproof seemingly that car has been. I mean, it's won, if you like, the 6-hour race. It's won the 12-hour race. It looks like it's going to win the 24-hour race. And I can't remember hearing anything from race control to do with penalties about
你大傻逼了，你干啥子啦？
They have run the metronomic race. They've run it absolutely by the book, and they've stuck to their plan. They've not gotten involved in unimportant squabbles. They've kept clear of back markers. They've not got into contact. They've not abused track limits. So they've run the race the way everybody sets out to run, but inevitably something interferes, and then the whole routine gets slightly overturned.
Well, that car was expected in on 5.39. It comes in on 5.38. And I think part of that is because we had a little bit of time lost with a full course yellow just to slow things down. But even so, it's going to be good now on that basis to go to the end without a further pit stop being needed. If it does come in again, it's clearly a problem. But new tyres go on. The screen is cleared, and this should be the last pit stop before Iron Lynx, making its debut in this race, sets out on target for a win.
I've always felt that this is a car that had the potential to win here at Spa, but for a variety of reasons, it never materialised. It was always that sort of stranglehold that the top German brands seem to exercise, and also by hearing numbers, the strength of the Audi teams, the Mercedes teams, the Porsche teams, then a true pro Ferrari team was not common on the ground.
Well, even though Iron Lynx lost its other car, perhaps more favoured car, 71 on the 10th lap of the race, 51 has done us proud, hasn't it? Because that car with star driver Alessandro Pierguidi in the wheel continues to dominate. For the moment, Dries Van Voort takes over the race lead, but he's going to give that up on this next lap of the one after when that.
刚换刹车，我们提早刹一下。
Last lap was a 2:21, which was okay, but not mega. In the last stint of the race, we will see what, if anything, can be done about the leading car. But surely now, nothing can get in the way for Iron Lynx. But the one thing that might is the weather. It's getting darker, cooler, and grayer, and more ominous.
第一个弯一定要让它先打到中速，早一点刹没有关系，不能晚刹。
And now sets off down towards campus once more past the college. The fact that this race is on at all in many respects is quite an achievement given not only the pandemic but also the appalling weather and the devastation that has been done in the local area over the last month or so, some of which was here. I mean, even a week ago at British GT, while races were on, the paddock was being resurfaced. They had to patch up bits of the circuit. It's been a mammoth task by the Spa circuit management and the local authorities to get the race underway at all. But the hard work has been repaid by another really interesting event. It's going to go down to the wire because WRT aren't going to give up. They've got to about that.
Well, they'll keep pushing as much as they can. And as you point out, as the Audi comes in, so it's now in for its final stop as well. So the lead will once again revert back to the 51 Iron Lynx Ferrari and Alessandro Pierguidi, as you see, 3-4 coming down the pit lane. Look how relaxed that Ford is as he moves down. The manager 50 kilometers per hour, not relaxed there, you'll never be relaxed.
Just a quick rummage through steward qualities reminds me that the Iron Lynx team's not quite as saintly as I've been making out. There was a refuelling violation that got them a drive-through penalty, but in terms of track limits, let me rephrase it there, I think there's many things that they've done wrong, and if the win comes, again, for what you might call a rookie team, then it's mighty impressive. Andrea Piccini
都已经开始有点快要不听使唤，你知道吗？因为大拇指推的那个感觉已经快要。
set of tyres and wet tyres going on to the Audi. So WRT with nothing to lose really now, thinking that the rain is going to come. They need to be well placed for it. So this could be the move that wins. It could be the move that leaves them with egg on their faces. But 32 Audi now goes on to wet. If this shower doesn't come, they're going to be certainly red-faced. But this could be the move of the race.
It's not going to be a shower, it's going to be a deluge. And that's the reason why WRT have opted to take a high-risk strategy by putting the Audi on a set of cool wet weather tyres, and even on an outlap on a set of tyres when the racetrack is not, as you can see coming down into Rouge, is both dry. I mean, that is rolling the dice. I mean, I was shocked when I saw the wet weather tyre going on, but there is weather coming in, and it is looking extremely threatening. So whether they'll get one lap as the car rolls down the hill now on those wet weather Pirelli tyres, the brand new tyre, and the wind is beginning to pick up likewise in the pit lane. So here we are, let's wait and see the guys. Look, WRT. I'll tell you what, if you don't win the race, you'll regret doing that.
Well, has that rain dance worked? The rain is on its way, certainly, but imminent, I think, might be the answer.
The wind's picking up, which always indicates that there is rain coming, and it is getting darker.
这有点像纽柏林的一个弯呢，突然觉得。
I think there is rain coming down on the pit lane. There is rain falling on the pit lane. Yeah. As I'm sitting here in my commentary position, as they say.
It's starting to rain in the pits. The wind has picked up, and when the rain comes, it is expected to stay to the end.
你该不会是买什么摇杆之类的吧？飞行摇杆之类的吧？
The rain is coming.
我虽然没看，我是用猜的，要不然就是买模拟飞行。
At Spa, the weather conditions are changing as we build up to the end of the race. The rain is falling at Spa. 50 minutes of the race to go. The leader has gone on to slicks, and the second place car has gone on to wets. And the rain is getting heavy. The rain is coming down. On slick tyres, the Iron Lynx Ferrari with under an hour to go, tiptoes round. Is it going to bail? Is it going to stay out? What weather information does the Italian team have at its disposal?
They would be sitting beside WRT. They would have understood what they've done. They didn't do it just because it was a roll of the dice. They did it because they understood the weather. It's not as soon, I suspect, the Porsche comes in.
Oh, it's in the
No!
Oh, one side靠背。
Decided to brave it out. That is a massive roll of the dice. Everybody's rolling the dice like being in Las Vegas.
那注意哪慢车在哪？结果没有自己没有看那个减速牌。
But it's going to be losing masses of time to the wet shod Audi.
Wait and see how quickly the first flying lap is for Dries Van Voor. Vis-a-vis the current lap. The lap that we're now watching here is the Audi coming up. You can see running at race speed on the
越来越大了，你可以看到那个打下来的都有那个水珠。
Over the curve, he can run the curves, he's on the way on the car.
question is, can he get the lead on this lap? So here, look, the spray, there's water aplenty off the road. It is absolutely hooning it down like we've been expecting all weekend. So the gap is 39 seconds. But we'll only start to see what it's going to be like at the end of the first sector. But that car's on wets, it's chasing one on slicks, and life for Pierre Guidi is getting awful, and Iron Links are ready for it to come in.
Absolutely, they need to be. But what I would ask is, if this rain continues and the weight that it is falling, is there any prospect that we could see a full course yellow being introduced? Quite simply because the amount of rain on the racetrack might be considered to be too much to allow these cars to race safely, even if they are on wet weather tyres.
Good point. One for race control to think about. You could cynically say it's down to a driver's right foot, and there is drama now. That might change things completely, because off the road has got 9-11, and more of them on slick tyres arrive. 3-4 cars involved. Now potentially full course yellow will come. And look, there's another car off the road there, heading towards the barrier. The 50 Mercedes slews sideways. There's another Ferrari pirouetting. The yellow flags wave. And Alain Adon is going to have to make a call in a moment. The yellow flags are there, and cars get away from the scene of the crime, diving for the pit lane. Well, the road clears itself. Everybody's got the chance to back off, except another Mercedes spins into the stop chicane. The drivers have the ability, and the teams will be shouting on the radio, go slow, and that's the leader who's barely going to make the corner. Pierre Guidi tiptoes around, he just gets away with it. That's the pit lane shot. Look how wet it is, but they're all putting in for wet tyres. So right now, Dries Van Voor on wets. He's in the box seat here at Spa. The rain is torrential. The leading car is on slicks. The pit lane is a hive of activity. And here, Alessandro and Pierre Guidi struggling to keep the car in a straight line. It looks like the dead of night coming up towards Blanchimont. We could run quicker than this. The car is having a hellish lap in the wet.
It's as if the car has got 4 water skis on it. It isn't in contact with the tarmac. It is
第一弯就差1秒钟，1秒3。
And the car's tires. He's made it through Blanchimont. How he has managed this, I mean, amazing ability. Maybe an error of judgment and staying out that one additional lap. As there we see Dries Van Voor.
我看 pit lane 里面应该都是在换轮胎啊。
WRT to do this, but they have the weather up. Look, bring that car in now. There must be at least an inch of water. Look, the puddles as well.
I've always wanted to cover powerboat racing. Here it is then. So in paddles the Ferrari, and Iron Links looks as though it is going to be denied because of the weather, and you can never rule out WRT. There is Van Voor. Look at the way the gap had come down anyway, but now the Audi is going to get the race lead, and this has got to be an absolutely electric pit stop from Iron Links, but the weather looks like it's going to thwart them of a chance of a win. Can you believe it?
I mean, I would put all bidding on Chelsea and lose them following went by their times they are.
If they'd have pitted a lap later, it could have been a different story.
Absolutely, but I mean, the fact that WRT did what they did at the time, and then the team did their little rain dance, but even now a car on wet weather tyres coming down the hill as Dries Van Voor is doing, there is no guarantee that the wet weather tyres is going to be sufficiently good to clear the level of water, particularly the riverets that be running down at Eau Rouge. Watch what happens with Dries Van Voor. The car, you can see it moving around as he catches those floods of water running diagonally across the racetrack.
But Dries Van Voor takes over the lead of the race, and by some margin, just driving through the pit lane alone is 72 seconds, never mind the tyre stop. And that car losing traction in a straight line. That is the Barwell Lamborghini. That was a good save by Sandy Mitchell, the Scottish driver. Managed to catch that as he was running down the hill, got a bit of standing water, it suddenly got lively, and inevitably there are teams shouting for a red flag because it's not safe, but the race director will be mindful of those that want a red flag and those that probably leave that class.
The danger. Oh, the Ferrari has hit the barrier. And there's that off the racetrack. Well, that car will have to be moved, so this may well see a full course yellow because it's in a dangerous position.
That was 33 Benji Highties. So you've got some teams saying it's not safe, everybody paddling round. Yeah, it is pretty horrible out there, but surely you match your pace to the conditions, don't you? Or am I being flippant and naive in saying that?
Well, I'm assuming that everybody has come into the pits and put on a set of with their tyres. I'm not persuaded that it is the case.
Full course yellow in 10 seconds.
That was all up the run up with the tunnel straight.
4, 3, 2, 1, full course yellow.
course, yellow is called for. That's because of the car in a dangerous place more than the conditions. You might argue the conditions have been the catalyst for the car being off the road, but it's not just the rain that has triggered this. It is stranded on the circuit. Of course, if anybody else were to
这边一出来没开好，少1秒，多1秒。
Coming down the hill, look at this. Look at Tom Morgan. Wow, Hamad got away with it. Didn't clip the barrier.
He's not hit a thing.
I think he might have just skimmed the barrier. Oh, he did. He hit it. Just a very minor fault. That was the exception, McLaren. Oh, it did pile into the barrier. Now cars coming behind. Honestly, I'm not persuaded. Look at that.
Brendan Areve at the wheel of the McLaren. Whatever that was in the spray that missed him was pretty masterful. So Brendan Areve, welcome to Spa. That was quite a moment. He saw all of that water like a bucket being thrown over the camera lens. It just spun past the camera. So there the Ferrari to be moved. Is this how he got there? Just suddenly, yeah, just see the gloom. It spears across hits the barrier. So frontal impact. So that car needs retrieving, and of course right now we are in this slow delta speed. Let's have another look at Brendan Areve's moment. Wait for the water to be dissipated as it spins past. Wow, look at that.
我玩地平线4啊，不能玩太久。如果玩太久，你什么开什么东西，全部都是全油门。什么刹车都是全踩。但这个会让你静下心来，半含油门，去找寻那个弯道最佳的油门开度。
Intently studying the screens with 42 minutes to go. Number 32 still has to cross the timing line to be the race leader because Ferrari emotionally was ahead when the car made its pit stop. The timing line is as you come into the pit lane, so the Audi have
对了 ，Forza 的刹车太好了，不知道为什么。
race leader, so other race big road blank would have done any good for the Audi whatsoever, but it comes over the line now, and as it breaks the timing beat officially now we've got 32 as the race leader. A big round of applause from WRT.
Well, there's either going to be egg on face or champagne spray at the end.
我的右手、左手偶尔还可以起来休息，但右手要含油门，不可能休息。
Splashing out of Lassource is race down 4. So after all the effort of our links to the Ferrari, the Weber puts Audi ahead.
可是重刹就是你要拼最晚刹车的时候才重刹，最晚刹车就代表你直线跑得比人家快。但前提是你要考虑的是进弯那个重刹对前悬吊的负荷会不会影响你接下来进弯的转向？就你轮胎，包括你轮胎变形这种。
Certainly up into turns 18, 19, but it's really exciting.
特别是重的车啦，重的车重刹对那个前悬吊跟轮胎的负荷太大了，越下越大，你看，现在已经看不到雨点了。解放双手，谢了。下面有银行账户，明天我看到多1万元，我会先存起来。2万元我才会拿去买 TSPC。他拴的是右手的手掌，然后左手的大拇指以及中指，还有右手中指。 基本上中指扣油门刹车。我觉得我一直有在追进前面的。
Well, right now you've got that brains trust at WRT looking pretty smart.
是雨胎最棒的时间。
All of those years of experience, Ryan and I were discussing a little earlier whether it helps to have a team in which not only do you have good engineers, but you have somebody that's won the event as a driver. Andrea Piccini won it as a driver. He runs Iron Links. Vincent Voss, Pierre Gidonnet, Thierry Tassin, they're all involved with WRT. They've all won it as drivers. Does it help to be able to look at it from both sides, engineers as well as drivers? Possibly so, but certainly knowing what the weather does here and what it can do, the best meteorological predictor going has stood Dries Van Voor at WRT in very good stead. So teams on down, remember while we had this full course yellow period, the rain has eased a bit, but it's still coming down.
我觉得只有纯的直线才可以看聊天室了。
The last lap by Dries Van Voor out of Innsbruck was 4 minutes 38, so almost, clearly nearly double that of a normal 5 other time.
So potentially the one mistake that Iron Links has made all race, which is not to have gone onto wet tyres, not to try and
这些都比真的职业车手还厉害，都雨天都不会打滑。 但 SPA 昨天晚上夜间下雨，滑好几台车出去。 会计师才打来这个。还不错，还不错啊。
Vincent, what everybody wants to know is who is the genius that pulled that stop with the wet tyres over everybody else?
It's just a team goal. It's a team goal, and well, it was Gumbo. Obviously, we had good information.
这台，我前面这台在昨天的 SPA 撞掉。这台 N6。
Car on the left. Clear on the left. Faster car coming up behind. Watch out.
WRT has been without wins here for a little bit too long, and maybe it was all this, never mind apps or technology, good old-fashioned radars, that's what did it.
Well, they've got it right, and credit to the team and to the genius. I'm sure that's going to be his.
应该更神的是过弯被 T 3 AI 碰一下飞进去，赞啦！欢迎来到极限竞速。
It's going to be massive. It's going to be absolutely horrendous. And anybody who is on the
race,
if they start a lap when the rain begins, they might be struggling to finish the lap, and that was the case for many drivers.
哪嘞
In the Silver Cup, Rick Brokers still leads the man Panda, and he is a lap up on Valentin Asper. So the Garage 59. Martin still second, still pushing for BHC, Valentin Asper, but he needs to be able to unlap himself before the charge. I think second is going to be as good as it gets for the Aston, unless the Panda doesn't like looking at the rain and goes back into his cage.
Car on the left. Faster car behind you. Clear on the left.
Car, and there is Dries Van Voor at the wheel. Now, of course, he's assessing the conditions all the time, isn't he?
Second place, Ferrari. Comes up the side up into the source. I can't begin to imagine what the thoughts are in the mind of Alessandro Pierguidi, who was looking to a famous victory here for Ferrari, but now is faced with the reality. Look at the Iron Links Ferrari team members. They're just looking disconsolate. All the work that they've done, they've been such a fantastic unit all the way through, and then something as fundamental as rain.
不会，他真的有让那台好像是前几名的喇叭。
Car on the left. Clear on the left. The faster car is approaching.
And there is
safety car procedure. Safety car procedure.
Soggy Panda, Rick Brokers got the class lead back when 159 Aston Martin had to come tyres, so they'd done their last pit stops, but then on different laps had to come back in and sort out the tyres. So that's put number 90 back into the lead of the class. And the safety car, as you heard from the race director, is now being deployed. So that gathers them all up. And then we'll be ready for the restart. And as in the UK, it's a touring car weekend. I feel I'm able to say safety cars breed safety cars because you're going to get them all in the line on the wet road and let them loose with just over half an hour to go. Number 90, Man Pan with the
Car on the left.
being
Clear on the left.
The cars go
Faster
quick,
car
you see,
behind you.
and get a better appreciation of the water that's on the road.
I mean, there is still a load of water on the
Car on the
road.
right. Clear on the right.
不小心撞太大力了。
Then it's going to be a complete whiteout for the drivers behind the lead cars.
Visibility is going to be very difficult unless you're Dries Van Voort ahead of it. You're the pioneer on the track level, but you're with visibility.
神奇的是我没事。
He will have the best of the visibility, but he'll have to try and assess his track conditions corner by corner.
雨这越下越大，赛道多数都是积水。
Something like at the moment, a minute give or take in hand by the safety car, that will be reduced.
Car on the left.
Cars between the top two, not so
Clear on the left.
very many. And that demonstrates that we'll have a look at the moment. That's, I reckon it's only about 2 or 3.
David, look at the spray. Cars running a little over than I ought to be on the 50 kilometers per hour. We're really doing 90 or 100 kilometers per hour. And the amount of spray.
我看到赛道上已经有积水。
It's a tree line. The spray has nowhere to go. It just goes up and then it hovers, then it falls down from where it has risen. So it is, I mean, a really, really difficult situation for the competitors remaining. We've got 35 in effect running Mexico also back up with so many laps, 48 laps behind. So it's an effect of 35-car field with one running and just waiting for the ball coming down the hill.
人家觉得我能完赛已经很棒了。
Aside from maybe the very difficult spray will be, are there any areas on the track where there's standing water? There's a little bit there at the exit of Bunchman, but it's on the line, so it needs to be spraying. You get water here as they come up into turns 18 and 19. You can see the candle on the road forces the water to run diagonally across the racetrack. That was why we had a number of cars going off at that point in the circuit, albeit they're on slick tyres. So again, it's a little bit of local knowledge and understanding of how the drainage of Spa actually operates.
Again, retro WRT and the brains trust on the pit wall for William is absolutely right. As over the line comes the safety car. Now, how many laps before they're released? Certainly, although the rain is still with us, it is much lighter rain than it was a few minutes ago. But the circuit is so competitive.
那边也可以。
Safety car in this lap. So we're all set to go.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
Running behind the safety car, he will be on his toes when it comes to the safety car coming up the hill into turn 18 and 19.
人开好慢。
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
Well, this could be a mega fight.
Car on the left.
We are
Clear on the left.
half an hour in the
Faster
race.
car is
So
approaching.
you've
Watch
had
out.
all of this to get us to this point. 30 minutes on the clock. Safety car in at the end of this lap of what he said. And we will be ready to go very shortly indeed. Baker.
这次这里还好一点点。
We've got half an hour to go in the Total Energies 24
你这还有1个小时。
The safety car will be in this time. We've got a dash to the flag on a soaking wet circuit. There's a battle for the lead and a battle 4th and 5th. Nico Buller and Nick Tanley.
This reminds me of 2019 and probably 2020, Kailami 9 hours, when they have cloud bursts, very similar, and you've got the same situation. Lack of visibility once the race gets underway. And the question is this being released maybe a lap or 2 or 3 or 4
赛道积水了。
or is this the perfect time, the right judgment to let this race get back underway?
And although you've got a race order, Ryan Marine, it's not just about speed anymore, it's about surviving.
Surviving the traffic, surviving the track. Boy, there's a whole lot at stake here as well. The pressure has ramped up to its highest point yet. with less than 30 minutes to go. And the order, thanks to this sequence of events, has been inverted for the first time in some time. We see the 51 as the chaser, not the chased.
It's going to be fascinating, isn't it? 4.8 seconds, a bit of traffic in between as well on the restart. 29 minutes to go.
Faster car is approaching.
We'll work out what a fully wet flying lap time is going to be, but this is going to take us to the end of the race.
shit.
The other issue the drivers further in the field are going to face is literally disorientation, because they will suddenly find it's like flying a helicopter in clouds. You end up not knowing whether you're upside down, on your side, or flying directly. Disorientation occurs very, very quickly indeed, and it's horrible.
哇，这雨是怎么回事啦？这还要比？真的吗？
Takes a big breath, puts his mask back on, and hopes that 28.5 minutes goes very, very quickly and very, very successfully for WRT. But Dries Van Voor leads the way. Bit of weaving to try to get the pressures up, to get the temperatures up. Alessandro Pierguidi runs second behind links, and how many back markers are between the two of them? It's like 4 cars there.
Faster car behind you.
哇，他顶我，干你娘！
Not only is there spray, not only is there traffic, but to do the overtaking, he is going to have to go offline where it's wetter, where it's more treacherous. So he is going to be in jeopardy.
Wow, 我轮胎都要撞坏了，鸡掰！
28 minutes just under remain out of the chicane.
撞都来撞，妈了就你！
Best he can in these conditions, and away he goes. And this gives him an opportunity to build the lead as he comes down towards La Source. But they've got to get round the hairpin safely. They've got to get through a Rouge and Radion safely.
And remember, Dries Van Voor's on the bubble. One more track limit abuse, and he'll be having a drive-through.
That's right, he's on 4, Pierguidi's on 3, and this is the view from number 70, Jordan Pepper, at the helm of the Inception Racing McLaren as Van Voor builds that gap downhill, finds a little bit of traction, he's okay, he gets through safely, but look at those, like Pierguidi in the spray ride, it's hell on wheels.
He's got to find his way, pick his way through this. How do you find your way through?
没办法右转了，
Compare and contrast that to what Dries Van Voor's got out his windshield. That's the perfect view. He's kicking up that spray right behind that's obstructing the view for everyone to follow. Meanwhile, he's got a clear windshield.
Yes, indeed. Those lower down on different laps than the race leaders as Pierguidi gets out his periscope, tries to find a way past 27 Audi that slithers off the road. He seizes the advantage, but that was a risky move in a sense. If that Audi had slithered towards him, contact could have been there.
Indeed, but he had to take his chances. The gap opened up. He was in control all the way through. The only thing he had was control of the Audi, and he had just to open train that he'd given enough room to enable the Ferrari to get through.
Much more faster.
Look at him coming down the hill. The nose of the car just weaved under the water, that's the standing water coming down in the speaker's corner.
So down through Paul they come.
Cars in the pit lane.
It is Van Voor to Pierguidi then in the first section. The gap had extended, of course, because one had visibility, one had plenty of traffic, but Van Voor now just needs to stay ahead. Doesn't matter whether he wins by 1,000 for a minute, he just needs to win.
It's been a dry spell for Audi as of late since 2017, since they've won overall with this great race.
转向驾驶呢，应该是估计是阶梯，再长一点就是轮轴断掉。
doing everything he can, but the conditions are not favorable.
I mean, these are the most difficult conditions any racing driver has.
Box this lap, we have to
What's
repair the car.
amazing to me is that Dries Van Voor in the lead has not pulled an iota on the Mercedes running behind him. Now that's a car out of position, but I would have thought, because you've got the benefit of the best conditions to see where you're going, he hasn't actually been able to extend that advantage.
So as the cars now make that run up towards the chicane, that's what the weather has in store for us. Just a reminder of why we went safety car. You go faster under the regulations behind a safety car than the delta speed. So by having the safety car for a restart, it gives them a chance to go faster, to get tire pressures up for safety, to get the tire temperatures up for safety, and then go racing. I know the flip side of the coin is they're all in a line, but that's the rationale behind it. As into La Source goes.
好像都是开在最外侧的。
That lap then was
上次看那个 Monza 6 Hours， 那 MP2 的车坏掉，就开最外侧。
In line in the 77 Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. Now the plunge down from La Source down into the compression at the bottom of the Rouge. Then the car swings right, and then at the top of the hill, the Radion gets all light and airy-fairy, and it's again easy to spin up a wheel. But look how close Alexander Pierre
不会是连
Guidi
电
is
子
to
系统都
Sandy
故障
Mitchell
吧？
right in his sweep track, hoping to make
是
a
在玩
move
赛。
one side or the other. Goes to
是
the left hand
ACC 会把
side.
车撞到完全坏掉吗？
Clear vision to be
因
able
为
to
AC 会吗
work out where
？ACC
he
会
is.
吗？
He's got clear of the Lamborghini, and that was
好像没撞过那么大，我知道 AC 会撞坏，但 ACC 我不知道。
Now having to play catch up.
So Adam Nicole goes 51 Ferrari, but can you believe it, Ryan, after the way they've dominated the day with just under 24 minutes to go, it looks as though the weather gods drive Audis.
Now that's the way it's playing out right now, but the rain has started to slacken, if not dissipate entirely, so we could be seeing the track dry out as the final 20 minutes play out, and we've seen
我现在觉得我就是轮胎歪掉啊！
You find a forecast you like.
他怎么换那个视角？
No, I mean, sitting where I'm sitting, it is still raining, but not as heavily as it did when this rainfall came through. And there is so much water on the racetrack.
那我左前轮坏了，我左前轮撞歪。
As a result of that heavy rainfall coming in, so ambient start, there's no racing line going to appear with 23 minutes remaining. But you can see the tired tread on the wet circuit, but you're not going to see a dry line.
This would be, incidentally, Audi's 8th Intercontinental GT Challenge win, 4 more than Porsche, and Kelvin van der Linde would join Christopher Haase on 4 wins, a joint record. If things stay as they are. The rain is most definitely still falling. There's a big puddle that we can see out of our window on the pit straight, and it continues to fill up. The temperature is dropping, helping to chill the beer for later on, as there, Alessandro Pierguidi rounds Blanchimont 5.6 seconds back at the start of the lap. He was down in sector 1, but he was quicker in sector 2. But Dries van Thor doesn't need to push or take any risks.
He doesn't, but he needs not to feel too comfortable and too relaxed, because Alessandro Pierguidi has got nothing now to lose. He has got victory or been it. I think fundamentally that's the rule that he will be playing out in the remaining 22 minutes.
So near and yet so far, seemingly, for Iron Lynx. And we have had a change for second in Silver Cup, because the number 7 Mercedes has got up past this car. 159 Valentin Asclot has been overtaken, so look for the headlights in the gloom. Anything that's Mercedes shaped, there it is. So from the pit lane to now 14th overall and second in class after a change of driver on race morning, that's pretty good going.
I think the team could again pat themselves in the back and say, thank you weather, thank you weather.
Right, that's been a remarkable recovery from having to wait for everybody to set off before they could even join the race.
Remarkable indeed, and an improbable podium as it's shaping up now. Still a lack of change in 21 minutes. Not sure they're going to have any challenge for the Panda Express. Panda Motorsports leading in that class as they have much of the race and have a pretty healthy advantage. But nevertheless, as you say, remarkable to climb through the field as they have.
And as we're also looking at Audi continuing its not domination, but winning streak within IGTC, and WRT as a team set for more victories than Santalok. So more records being set within the Intercontinental GT Challenge. 3 rounds for that this year, and of course this is the first delayed because of the pandemic. All being well, we finish at Kyalami, and there's the Indianapolis 8 hours
Switzerland
race as
the
well.
Hurricane
The gap
GT3
is
ever.
closing almost by the corner. Alessandro Pierguidi clearly quicker around the circuit than Dries van Thor. It was 4.3 seconds when they came across start-finish line at the beginning of lap 5:48, and I would not be surprised that 4.3 will be down to about 2.
Absolutely right. WRT then looking for a third IGTC win right now. So the lead gap was 4.3 seconds in the first sector, down by 6/10. So Pierguidi backing up Watty's point. He's got absolutely nothing to lose. That's the live gap, and look at him, he's come down yet further.
3 seconds at that intermediate point, and then you've got the long climb all the way back up to the top of the start-finish line. There are the headlights of the Ferrari, and it is just simply travelling more quickly than the Audi is doing. So I don't know why. I noted it when this race went back to full green race conditions. I didn't think that Dries van Thor's pace was as what I would have anticipated. Now, there may be reasons why, we don't know, but it's allowing the second place Ferrari to claw back, shed loads of time. 3 seconds at that second split. Let's see what it's probably going to be about 2.5 maybe as he comes across start-finish line. 2.9.
2.9 seconds onto lap 5:49. 19.5 minutes to go. Dramatic enough for you?
I think so. We'll take it. That's for sure. Pierguidi in traffic, lost some ground early on, but ever since he's been able to get out in front of that lap traffic, it's been clear sailing from here. Now that's going to be communicated to Dries Van Thor in the lead. They'll be telling him, Pierre Guidi is coming. You need to push, push, push. Find that little bit extra if it is out there. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but he's got to find out.
Big tank slapper for the Ferrari, just on the edge of the Ferrari on the back snapped. I think he might have caught the demarcation white line at the side of the racetrack. And that was a hard-to-mind moment for the Italian.
End of the first sector, Audi goes through, Ferrari goes through, 2/10 pullback. So even with that Code Brown moment for Pierre Guidi, he is not giving up, he is still trying. And like you said, John, he's got nothing to lose here. It's a smaller trophy for second place, you want the big one or you might as well have the repair bill.
Well, unfortunately, that probably might be the case. But Alessandro Pierre Guidi, if he's ever driving in a manner which is almost superhuman, we're seeing this right now in front of us.
Lead gap is coming down between this man, Dries Van Thor, and in second place, Alessandro Pierre Guidi, who has just had a scary moment climbing the hill. That was Van Thor going through. This was Pierre Guidi, who ran it a little bit wide as he came out of the corner, up over the curve, and that settled the car.
He caught the curve, and I saw that. Wow, watch it here. Look at it, look. Oh!
预报说会下更大，爆！
So there, smiles of relief, I think.
Holy shit!
Right now in number 51 Ferrari, there is a massive laundry bill after that.
Oh my goodness, well, we'll deal with that later. At the moment, it's all about charging here. And look, this is the car that has dominated this race since the night they established themselves as the favorites. They have been the ones trying to fend off the challenges. It all changed with the arrival of the weather and the great strategy call from WRT to go to the range when they did just before the deluge. It was a great antediluvian call, you might say, for the Belgian team. They get it done. Now, though, when the roles are reversed, the Ferrari is charging here. Guidi's been one of the stars of this race, if not the star. He'll cement himself as the standalone star if he can make this move.
Absolutely right. So
你们，我现在很专注在赛道上，累。我看，反正开完就关台了，对不对？啊。
Scott and his television crew, our cameramen who have been out in all weathers, all weekend, fatigably staring at screens, choosing pictures for us, choosing exactly the right things to see at the right time. Believe you me, it takes an awful lot of effort to put on a massive production like this, whether you're a race official, whether you're running the television side. So guys, thank you very much. You deserve a beer and the cameramen deserve to go and get warm and dry. And in about 17 minutes, they might just be able to think about that. But right now, it is still game on, isn't it? As Pierre Guidi has got this gap down John to 2.1 seconds.
Yes, he's coming at 16 minutes. What's going to come first? The overtake or the clock running down? I think it's going to be Alessandro Pierre Guidi is going to be on the, well, he's as close to the back of the Audi now. Maybe slightly more difficult for him to make that final step to get ahead of the Audi, but look at the lap times, half a second ahead of Dries Van Thor. But we all said you can catch, but can you pass? And then getting right under the rear of the Audi, the spray will be absolutely intense.
Faster cars approaching.
Camera lenses are magnificent. They can see
赛道积水了。
What is the human eye having to deal with?
你这上那个，有没有看到赛道上都是水痕。
GT racing version of waterboarding, is it? So the rain, the gap coming down, the pressure is on Van Thor now. And Alessandro Pierre Guidi creeping up, he was 6/10 quicker.
They're
heading towards the pit path, and then the end of sector 2. 15 minutes to go, 2 minutes 38 for a flying lap. Do the subs, how many laps can we squeeze in? It's nail-biting stuff. They're going to have to look at WRT. And even though WRT seemed to make the right call on the tyres, in terms of pure pace, look at the Ferrari go.
Advantage for Prancing Horse at this stage, no doubt about it. Pierre Guidi taking chunks of time, lap after lap, 0.3 of a second in that sector, as you can see on the screen right there. The thing, though, is the closer he gets, the worse the visibility gets. You get close enough, you're driving blind with just the brake lights as your lone star out the windshield.
And John, if he's going to overtake, Pierre Guidi's got to go offline, and there it's wetter and it's more slippery.
有没有看到那个赛道上，不管是入园时赛道上或旁边的那个各种东西都充满了水。 我们原本的挡风玻璃是可以看到一点一点的水雨滴的，我们现在什么？它是只有一片。哦，硬的这个。那它只是往滚呐。雨啊，还下大雨。预报是写暴雨，但预报还没有到。哎，我看那个保时捷的那个 GT3 统规赛，911 GT3 统规赛，干他妈那个真的是撞人大赛哎！反正我是管你吃不吃我先，我从最外面拐进去就是要卡你，超狠，我喜欢，那个才是真的血流成河。什么那个 Max 被 Hamilton 搞出去那个都不够狂。那个 GT3 的每个才都是杀人一样。As it once was, so perhaps that makes it a bit easier as Pierre Guidi closes in. Yeah. Racing 上次赛车模拟器啊。Affector 吧 ，Affector， 然后 Race iRacing。GT3 的好看呢，都在撞人。你上次看那个是什么 ？Rebel Ring 吧，奥地利。The safety car has brought him back into the equation, and now they run up towards Blanchimont almost together.
Would you want to be race director and ping Dries Van Voor for track limit of use?
Not right now. Not right now. Not ever, I don't think. I can imagine the deputy from WRT arriving at the door, but as they head out now towards the chicane, look at the way the gap is coming down and down and down. Pierre Guidi is almost there on the tail. They're going to come across the line with about 11 3/4 minutes to go, which is going to be about 5-6 laps maximum. Can that Ferrari start the attack looking really quick through the chicane? The gap at the line last time was 1.6 seconds. Over the line goes Van Voor now. Second is Pierre Guidi, and the margin is half a second up towards La Source. They are nose to tail, and right now the Ferrari is all over the Audi like a fat pigeon on a chip.
Right, down the hill. Don't get too close to the rear of the Audi. Just judge it that you want to maintain your advantage, which is your momentum, and not be stalled out by the Audi, because the best shot you're going to make is the first shot that's going to be available to you, and that's got to be up the hill, up the Kemmel Straight, up into the Lake Coombs, and that's where you might just find a way, but the gap, look how much it's extended. But is there anything left in the Ferrari? He can go to the right, he can go to the left, he's going to the left as he comes down the straight. Dries Van Voor hugs the middle line, inside there was a little sniff. Was the track available? No, Dries Van Voor too tiny to offer up an easy overtake. Up the inside, wow, he catches all the first bit of water.
Heart in mouth in the car. And at that moment, I thought Pierre Guidi was about to make contact with the Audi. This could, give Marco Sorensen the win if they got really close together. But Dries Van Voor defends now. The Audi looks strong up the hill, but the Ferrari looks really good downhill. So is this the opportunity? The move perhaps starts to be made down towards Court. Van Voor takes a different line at this corner, doesn't he? He always seems to go much deeper, looking for traction. Does he stretch the advantage? Well, he's still coming out ahead by a couple of lengths.
In the drive, we saw a race vision by AWS graphic that said the Audi was the best in terms of speed through that corner, but it's a different ballgame right now when we've got this much wetness on the surface. So far on this lap advantage, Vanderpool's been able to keep that gap stable, if not expand it slightly, but it could all change in just this next sequence of corners.
Here comes the Ferrari, looks a little bit quicker and tighter, going down towards campus. You've seen the way the Audi has been sliding. You get offline on one corner.
原本只是打算开2.4啊，但他没有制定嘛，开满。
This is for the race lead. We've been racing since 4:30 yesterday. 9.5 minutes to go, side by side. On the outside line is the Ferrari, and Pierre Guidi's going to do it. Right round the outside, he's got the drive, he's got the momentum, and he's got the bravery. Alessandro Pierre Guidi leads and Spa. Fantastic move
spin.
Drivers, look at the Audi pit. Absolutely shell-shocked by what they just did. Alessandro Piaguidi took that opportunity. He knew he had to nail the Audi at their first opportunity. He had a little slip up at Lake Coombe on this lap, but he got it done. How brave can you be? Went round the outside of Griezmann in full-on combative race mode, and he made it stick.
Apologies to Iron Links, because I missed the press release you sent about making a four-wheel drive version of the 488. That was an amazing move, wasn't it? And Ryan, not only has he done it on the outside, he is pulling away.
He has set sail appropriately in weather like this. Let's take a look at it again. Talk about respect between two drivers to make this work.
Yeah, this was tough because on the inside, Van Thor had the initial advantage, but around the outside, to some degree, Van Thor realized that Piaguidi wasn't going to give up, and he maybe had to back out of it a little bit to ensure that there wasn't contact between the two cars.
With a move like that, I know Iron Links has dominated the bulk of the race, but with a move like that, you cannot argue if this car hangs on to win. We know how good Alessandro Piaguidi is, but he's just taken another step closer to being one of GT Racing's utter greats.
Well, he is on perfectly. I've still got 7 minutes with his race remaining, but he is going to become a Spa 24 legend. He already is a legend, but this is just going to elevate him to that higher status for a move which is absolutely... Well, we all held our breath in the commentary booth. I thought, are both cars going to come out of the corner? Will maybe one car come out of the corner? Will not come out of the corner?
Do you know what the best thing, Ryan, is? Next year, when I say to John, tell your Alessandro Piaguidi story, it'll be about going round the outside for the lead. It won't be about the top of Radion.
There are two stories to tell. There's the one that was the unfortunate one, and the one which is the one we're seeing right now, which 7 minutes to go. What's going to be another 2 minutes, 3 lap on this lap, I'm probably 2 more, I think so.
John, you were talking about legendary status for Alessandro, and this race creates legends. Just in the last couple of years, Kevin Estra, so strong in the rain in 2019. Last year, Nick Tandy nursing that to secure the win. This year, no question, Alessandro Piaguidi, he is the hero of the day if he can keep it on track for just under 7 more minutes.
So far, so good then. He's about to come out of the chicane. And imagine what Dries Van Thor must be feeling, thinking he had the race in his back pocket, and now staring again at the Ferrari that is getting away up the road. 6.5 minutes to go. That's going to give us just about 2 more laps, I would. Road 3 at the most. Anyway, out of that source goes Dries Van Thor. Alessandro Piaguidi, an absolutely standout drive, and you've got to also appreciate the efforts of the team, because they have done a brilliant job in the garage. And of course, to go back very nearly 24 hours, they've had to do this with the shadow of the accident, the unknown to begin with, and the destruction of the sister car. They've had to put that out of their minds and just get on and focus on the other car and try to win the race.
I mean, it's an outstanding team effort. I cannot really add 2 more than that, and what the team have done to get round the number 51 Ferrari and support 3 drivers and just work their way through. That was a major setback. I mean, Davide Vigo, that was a massive high-speed incident, and I understand there's not long left in front of the Ferrari.
The other thing to keep in mind is this Iron Links team, I mentioned it before, not a well-established team. They're not very old, only started in 2017, but have burst onto the scene in recent years as one of the premier GT Ferrari outfits. And they've been going toe-to-toe with the established GT3 team, I believe, in WRT. And we've been comparing their pitwork, we've been comparing their strategy. Yeah,
oh, God.
When the weather came, but by and large, they have been matching them shot for shot, punch for punch, and the result is a commanding lead with 4.5 minutes to go.
And the result is another fabulous race that we've enjoyed. He's had an odd, quiet period, but by and large, he's always given us plenty to talk about.
What the fuck am I driving?
While we have a chance to catch our breath, another well done is due to all of the SRO organisation, Stefan Rantal and his team, those that administer the championship, and on his crew in race control, looking after track limits and pit stops, as you see the reaction in the Iron Links garage, and also big well done to the RACB as the on-the-ground organisers and to the Spa circuit officials, because they have had to work so hard to give us a racetrack, to give us a venue with a paddock, even to have the event, to get the tracks in, to get some of the cars to race. There was a massive part of the circuit that needed relaying after the recent storms and the flooding. So to all of them, a massive thanks as well to Lauren Gordon and Patricia Kiefer of SRO for their event management as well, to produce what has been yet another fantastic chapter in trying circumstances, not only with the flooding but also of course with the fact that legislation that planning changing all the time with the pandemic and its restrictions. So everybody that has been involved in this deserves a big round of applause. Maybe the loudest is going to go the way of Alex. He's in charge coming down the hill, and if it carries on to be as dramatic as this year on, I think Ryan might as well go home and book your ticket for 2022, because you always need to deliver the goods when you're on site. As you look at Pierre Guidi climbing up the hill once more.
Alessandro Pierre Guidi leading the way, has extended the gap to 3.6 seconds over Dries Van Goor. You have to feel for the WRT team. It was a tremendous drive to even get to the lead in the first place. His car, the 32 car, started all the way back at 54th, able to get up to the lead, and looked like they were in the catbird seat when the rain fell. Ultimately, at the end of the day, John, I'm sure they will be disappointed if they don't win this race, but it must be said, there's nothing fluky about what the Ferrari has done. They matched the punch for punch, and on this day, that was the better team car driver combination. At least it appears that way.
Well, I made an observation that I didn't think that Dries Van Goor's pace. When you look at it again, this is the pass. Is this the pass of the season? Pass of the decade? How much commitment and courage is required to do that? Door handle around the outside. Look at that. No, and not even a single track limit of view. Wow, two outstanding race drivers doing the job that they do best.
So that was, as you say, the move of the season, but the gap has come down again, look, because from 3.6 seconds, the cars together. So what we've got now is they break the ground towards the chicane, and Alessandro Pierre Guidi, and there you see the reaction of the team in the garage. That is what joy unconfined looks like. Ryan's absolutely over the moon. Fantastic. Round the outside in the wet, there he is, the testicularly enhanced Alessandro Pierre Guidi on lap 5.55 leads the way.
And continues to extend the gap at 3.6 seconds. It's almost irrelevant because we're coming up to the completion of the penultimate lap. So then to Kane, just be tidy, there's no pressure on you, you've moved away. And where is the idea? Well, we can't even see it now, haven't even come into vision.
Watching on, willing this last minute to disappear. Almost there, almost there. So this is the last lap of the Total Energies 24 hours of Spa Ryan Marine. It's a race that has delivered.
It has, from start to finish. We did have the slight delay with the big crash at the beginning. Happy that it was a relatively good outcome given the circumstances, and since then the battle just has not let up, and that's true across several different classes. We've been focused here on the overall lead, but up and down this field, everywhere you look, there was something to draw your attention, something to fascinate, something to entertain. At the end of it, though, I think we'll all be remembering that move around the outside. Alessandro Pierre Guidi, the dedication it takes to be a 24 hours of Spa race winner.
John, we know he's good, but blimey, we'll talk about that move for days.
我觉得之前那个弯就是太边边了。
The value of having a sprinkler system around your racetrack to turn it on, 20 minutes to go, turn the result on its head, and all of a sudden, we've not seen a single other race car since these two got toe-to-toe to battle for the victory. 13 seconds of the race officially, and this is going to be what a sweet. I mean, I'm running out of. I can't express how happy this Iron Lynx team must be, how the satisfaction that Alessandro Pierre Guidi must feel for having done such a remarkable, amazing job, particularly taking his hard on his mouth to go around the outside of Dries Van Goor through Blanchimont. That is legend.
And Dries Van Goor must be as crushed as an empty tin can after that amazing effort to get the race lead, and to be passed like that. I mean, Dries didn't roll over and let him by, did he? He made it as hard as he possibly could, hard but fair. And yet, the Iron Lynx Ferrari then is about to emerge from the right-hander of the Paul Frere. We started at Monza, it was a Porsche victory. We went to Paul Ricard in the Endurance Cup of GT World Challenge Europe, and it was a Porsche win. And it's going to be another celebrated sports car brand of Ferrari that will come through to score the race win here. Kohlhedegaard, Nicholas Nielsen, Alessandro Pierguidi, first-time winners, the first Ferrari win since 2004, the biggest win for Iron Lynx as a team. Its first GT World Challenge Endurance Cup win, its first Intercontinental GT Challenge win, the checkered flag at the ready, the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa for 2021.
24 Hours of Spa.
Kohlhedegaard, Nicholas Nielsen and Alessandro Pierguidi, who comes across the line, the hero of the hour.
我现在已经在痛了，左手大拇指，右手手掌。我现在是3耐。哦。
So near and yet so far, and it is joy unconfined, isn't it? In the Iron Lynx pit bunker. What a race!
Unadulterated joy in the pit lane there. You love to see it. That's what these
我还参照了现在 SPA 的天气，所以我选下雨天，而且还是大雨。
hours consecutively that you basically have to if you're going to run a car in a 24-hour race. It's not just the 24 hours the car is on track, but think about the
赛道有积水那一场。
this week to get the car ready to go. This will be a sweet celebration. You can see the emotion on the face of all involved.
And that realisation of what has been achieved is just about sinking in. And the FFF racing team, the first on the team's messaging system to congratulate the Iron Lynx squad as the winners. Now, it's another good day for Ferrari in Pro-Am, because let's count the other ones home. 16th overall for AF Corsa, Pro-Am victory for Ferrari. Miguel Bolina will bring it home. This is the car that Matt Griffin, Duncan Cameron and Rino Mastronardi
2080有什么差？你是说看起来呢？还是流畅度？还是你不能开下雨？
So Bolina, Cameron, Griffin and Mastronardi take the Pro-Am victory, and the Silver Cup win behind is going to go to the Man and the Mercedes. Couple of cars.
可是我记得我只有开中啊，我也没有开Ultra。
Patrick Cuila, Ezequiel Perez Compact, and the fourth driver Ricardo Sanchez celebrate a Silver Cup win and 11th place overall. Number 7 Mercedes.
开medium 还high而已。
The wheel second, Valentin Asclo for Garage 59, third in silver. And he's going to be won when he gets to the line by 166, the Manuel Lam driven bright yellow Porsche. And the field, I think just about everybody's come over the line, bar 1 or 2 maybe. But Alessandro Pierguidi.
没有，这没有光追啊，这游戏没有光追吗？
Outstanding lap time as well, John. A pro in the Pro-Am car you'd expect it, but Ferrari, long time since the last outright win, 2004, but they've bounced back in style, winning outright and Pro-Am.
怎么可能开光追？不可能啊！开光追就是开台，开台的游戏没有可以开光追的，除非你要309应该有机会。
The car worked with the driver. The driver didn't have to fight the car. He wasn't struggling with a recalcitrant chassis or a nervy, twitchy car. That's why we saw Alessandro Pierguidi able to run down Friesland 4 in the Audi and then able to make that amazing overtake around the outside of Portugal. The car was a major problem why Alessandro Pierguidi was able to carry that through by
Alessandro Pierguidi must be one of the heroes of the hour, but he had some great drives elsewhere, such as Rick Brokers bringing the Soggy Panda, the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes, through to a class win. And quite often that car suffers bad luck, but it's been a little bit of damage. It kept out of trouble in that race. The marshals there, as is the tradition, waving all the different flags to celebrate the cars making it home, and well done to all of them for being out in all weathers and making the event possible. Without them, we just could not run. So our thanks to all of the volunteer officials here for outstanding service yet again. So Ferrari wins from Audi, from Aston Martin, from Audi, from Porsche, from Audi, from McLaren, from Lamborghini.
开个大概4圈吧。我不知不觉开47圈呢，而且我不是最后1名呢。我突然发现我不是最后1名呢。哎 ？Fuck you！ 好了，我们摆脱垫底了。Yes。
You'll be able to see it from under my mask, I suspect. My goodness, this place, this race, don't disappoint, do they? Just everything you would expect, everything you could even hope for in a 24-hour race. Remarkable that it comes down to the wire the way that it did. Can't wait to hear the reaction from our race winners. Speaking from experience, there's nothing quite like a victory lane interview in a major race that means so much, especially when they came down to the wire the way this one did. There'll be a lot of unbridled emotion, I have no doubt.
Well, there are the winning hounds. Manuel Lau, Dennis Bush, Bart Seng, and Hubert Greutens survived, and the oh-so-bright Piercing the Blue Porsche.
是一开始那还 McLaren 吗？
They were 38 laps behind, they had their own problems, but just getting to the finish is an achievement right now. Dries Van Thorn might disagree, but for an out team like that, with problem after problem, they survive, they get to the end. Huge sense of achievement.
Yes, objective fulfilled, and they came here, they weren't going to win the race, they didn't intend to. They won their class and ticked all the boxes, and that's the name of their particular game.
So the cars making their way to Fermain.
就是看天气，忘记第一弯是非常重要的。
Interviews, and then they come out and say that they go to the endurance podium, but nobody's completely wrong on that.
Oh no.
We'd already get the winners onto the podium opposite Eau Rouge, and you can see now.
没有，他应该还没有退赛，他成绩还在跑。
Great scenes, great scenes.
这有退赛吗 ？AI 会退赛吗？
The realization when Hardy came in and went to the cars on, the look of despondency in the face of the Arndings team, believing that they'd done all the hard yards, and then in the final 20 minutes it's going to be robbed, a victory robbed from them, and then stellar.
Sector 3 yellow flag， 他都没有大黄旗的，还会有人退赛。哎，他是整台车玩好了，冲出去，那就也是有可能。我前面只看忘记是哪一国，好像德国有用这个办比赛。果然是汽车大师。他在 pit 的。
and here the winning car being brought down to the old start line. It's ready for the podium ceremony. Gemma Scott will be down there to have a word with race winners very shortly. Get to the end.
对啊，欧洲比较多吧？
Winning car
欧美。
2021 Spa 24 Hours arrives into victory lane. Winner P1 under the arch comes the Ironwings Ferrari. Number 32 Audi. The second place there is number 37 Audi.
因为 CC 还是只有 GT3 而已啊，因为你要跑到 RSR 或者是 GT2 上，iRacing 对 ，Affected 比较少 ，Affected 比较偏休闲性。
They got off sequence late and never could quite recover. I do wonder what they might have done had they been mixed up with the top two, but there you go. Pierre Guidi, you are the man of the hour, so soak it up.
Oh, what happened?
It has been a fantastic race, a fantastic drive by Alessandro Pierguidi, and I think the first opportunity he gets, he will be shown a mobile phone version of that move.
Faster car coming up behind you.
Starts to appreciate just how.
后面有一台出去了，后面刚刚有一台被顶出去了，好像是一台那个 Bentley。
Disconsolate there he is. You can see that he drove his heart and soul out all the way through coming up the grid to end up.
How about yellow flag?
Professional in him goes to congratulate Alessandro Pierguidi. Right, he's very much the hero of the hour. And to have a word with Alessandro Pierguidi, the race winner, Gemma Scott.
Alessandro, I mean, just incredible when that rain fell. If you could just put your mask on or your balaclava, that would be great. But when that rain fell, I guess you must have really thought it was over. But look, here's the point to congratulate you.
赛道已经满满的都是水。
Alessandro Grip puts on his balaclava, and hopefully, Gemma, he's all yours.
Boys, the emotion is really clear. That was so well deserved. You collected the points 6 hours, 12 hours, and 24 hours.
Yeah, but I tried so many times to win this race. So I was
24 hours of Spa.
And then in the last half an hour when the rain dropped and then everything looks lost, I was so disappointed in the car. So I said I have to do something and I push like an animal and take all the risk to do. And yes, we are here. So finally I won this race. Thank you guys.
刚刚这一次碾到水坑吗？普2声。
Incredible. So thank you to Ferrari that gave us a car like it was like a roller style.
Absolutely. I mean, the overtake of your career, that move is going to go down as legendary. Boys, watching on, your heart must have been in your throat.
The thing is, when you have a, you always want always a bit of performance, but it comes when you put that in the car. And this time, we knew that he was the man, and he did what no one can do.
Stint, I think so, just a few more laps.
So yeah, it was stressful, but yeah.
Just so well deserved to make the first win, the first Spa 24 win for the team. So many firsts for you guys now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's really difficult to put it into words, to be honest. And 24 hours. It's such a long race, so hard, and as you can see, in the end, anything can happen. We went out on slicks, and obviously it was the wrong call at the moment. But in the end, Ale did an amazing job to bring the car home in P1. So yeah, like he said, a massive thanks to everyone involved and to Ferrari for delivering a fantastic car for the race.
我想一下啊，我们现在剩20分钟，20分钟26厘腿，一圈差不多3分钟，6圈，60，差不多，不用加油。
No, and you wonder at which point did Alessandro Piagini decide I've got to make my cut now into Blanchimont, and he always was just, I think, fractionally ahead at the point of the turn-in of Dries van Voor. Dries van Voor allowed that move. Other drivers may have been more, let's say, unforgiving. But that was a clever move by Dries van Voor.
Well, you've got a feel for WRT. Kelvin van der Linde can reflect on second place.
Boys, what can I say, Dries? The pit stop was so perfectly timed. You drove so hard. I guess they just had a little bit more pace in the end there.
Yeah, I mean, the boys did an amazing job on strategy. Really fair credit to them, and yeah, it's not a nice feeling. I feel quite bad.
好长啊 ，Spa 的版就很长，Spa 只有耐力会开到这里，但一般的 P 还是一般 P 好像是从左边这边出去吧，它这边会封起来。好 ，Endurance 它有开第二刀。
It's a hard field to score.
That's an incredible drive there, Bruce. Come on, from all the way back there to second. That's what the team do, and that's what you do so
他妈的也不大。
Yeah, I mean, of course we can be happy, but it's just from the other side there is this small.
It's tough. It's tough. Well done.
这17分钟。
Well, in the States, we often say the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, and I think those were contrasted quite evidently between those two interviews. Clearly a great deal of disappointment for the WRT team. Nevertheless, a great run, as Gemma mentioned, to claw back up through the field after starting so far down in the order.
24小时 Spa, wow.
Ferrari team, Kelvin van der Linde goes to congratulate them. So it's good to see the sportsmanship between. I mean, they're not going off for a salt jump here, are they?
No, I mean, I think the camaraderie in this paddock is exemplary because they are all professional drivers. They know that they will have their day in the rain or the sun or whatever it is, and they saw an outstanding achievement by a single team, and they had victory snatched from them when the rain came, and then they grabbed it back.
Exactly. What about third place? Marco Sorensen, Nicky Team, and Ross Gunn with Gemma.
89%听起来又不是最后一名。
Yeah, for sure. It's a great.
89%听起来又不是最后一个。他已经是你过完94或95，然后最后才真的有最后一个。The real last one.
it's a good result and we can be happy with it, but not fully satisfied.
Come on, there's got to be a real joy to take from it. It's a pretty special place to be on the podium.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Spa is one of the best races in the world, GT3, and the team beyond the grid is, an achievement in itself. But yeah, we obviously come so close to the win. 1 minute behind after 24 hours is disappointing, but I'm still so proud of the guys at Go 59, Aston Martin Racing, to come here for a one-off race.
有一个奇怪的，我看后轮有个奇怪的抖动，是 TCS 介入刚刚的感觉，怪怪的。
The end of the race, so I wonder whether he's actually still in the circuit. He's got fast.
越来越大。
But that was in the night when he was a bit busy. Restart forward being interviewed about the conditions, and he was saying how becoming a bit marginal. Nicky Team did the best lap of the race, so Nicky clearly had no fear in those conditions. There's your Silver Cup winning man, Panda Motorsport Mercedes. Great job done by team quality 4.
有点对啊，有点在水上漂的感觉，可能也是刚好过水吧。 因为它那个赛道都是积水。
It is a quiet Spa here. The race over, but lots of happy drivers. Let's join the pro.
3 litre。 它现在是下大雨，那个再加上去，应该就是下暴雨。
Absolutely amazing. Miguel, you're shaking your head.
That was tough. It was a last hour to remember. It was difficult. We have a good advantage, but in this
有了，我们至少开50圈了。
哦，
现在的肩颈都开始在酸痛。
Can ruin every work that we did before, so I'm really happy. Thanks to my teammates because I think we did very good race. Quite smooth, good strategy, and at the end it paid off. And I'm really happy to win the 24 hours.
Absolutely, to see the Ferraris up there has just been fantastic.
That's great. I mean, for me, it's the fourth attempt to win this race. I already did it a couple of times on the podium, but never to win. So today, it's a great day for me. Thanks to all these guys that prepared for the. I hope we're going to do it again next year.
We look forward to it. Let you get your photos done now. Thanks, boys.
It's tempting in a way to overlook the classes, but they're all trying just as hard, putting in mega commitment. And the likes of Rino Mastronardi and Rob Oliver and Matt Griffin are really accomplished pro Ferrari drivers. And Duncan Cameron is an out class. I mean, he's done so many miles, so many races in Ferraris. You know, he's a very accomplished driver.
Well, in fact, Matt Griffin and Duncan Cameron on a very successful double act. Yeah. They've done a lot of endurance racing, and here there's a four-driver lineup, which I think is a very sensible way to approach it, because it's such a tough race, and you don't necessarily want to put one of the arms or one of the less accomplished drivers under a lot of duration stress.
Let's have a look at the provisional results then.
那还是McLaren好像真的是爆了，他一直在配没有出来。
Nicholas Nielsen and Alessandro Piegui with Griezmann for Calvin Van der Vidder and Charles Ritz. The gap 3.978 seconds ahead of Nicky Team. Roscoe and Marco Sorensen third. Fourth, Nico Buller, Robin Fritz and Dennis Lind ahead of Maxime Martin, Nick Tandy and kind of part-timer Lars Van Voorde to sit out today after. Marcus Vingerhoff, Patrick Niederhauser, Christopher Hasser taking 6th. We go down to 11th to find the Silver Cup winner. Ezekiel Perez, Ricardo Sanchez along with Rick Rogers and Patrick Kuyler. The winning pro-am car.
悬吊声音饱受摧残。我看雨越大，真的也会跑得越慢。跟赛道道面状况没有关系。刚刚道面就是接近快要没雨那一阵子，跑大概是2分39，2分40左右。
Swiss timing service will
39
double-check that.
39人偶尔的出现这样。
As I say, from the podiums floor, from the
那赛道大积水。
in a few minutes' time. The SRO officials down on the ground, rounding up the drivers. Of course, Ryan, the further you go down these results, the more hard luck stories you find, and you realise just which big names hit trouble, hit barriers, hit retirement.
It started early, didn't it? Just 9 laps into the race in 4 from the Pro Cup class that we all thought might be
等一下，连 race line
contentious.
上面都是水啊！
Were taken out of the race at that stage, but wasn't meant to be for
刚
them.
刚雨小的时候，我还要换干胎上来，因为赛车线上的水都已经几乎干得差不多了。
Understandably not tuned into this, but I'm sure everybody involved in the event wishes him well after that accident last night, which by all accounts was a biggie. So Jack Gamarson taking down at the F1 pits. It has been another intriguing race, and really, John, it's saved the best till that last hour.
Very much so. The excitement of the last 20 or so minutes, that will be the memory. What took place in the remaining 23 hours and 40 minutes is almost irrelevant, because that was what the race was all about. The weather had a massive influence.
Well, with winning at 24 hours, we're being ahead of 12 and ahead at 6. Carl Alessandro Piagrini and Nicholas Nielsen now lead the Endurance Cup. 2 races to go. Next stop being Nürburgring. Charles Witt, Dries van Thor, Kelvin van der Linde second, and dropping away. Sean Gounod, Raffaele Marciello and Danny Hunkadea. Klaus Bachler, Matteo Caroli and Christian Engelhardt, because those last 2 crews both retired from the event, so they didn't get the points after 12 hours. It has been the absolutely perfect weekend.
10 minutes!
Alessandro Piagrini and Nicholas Nielsen. So they now make their way up to the podium. So you've got the different classes. Drivers are plenty. Masks on. Still in this Mondays. The Panda head is there for, I suspect, Ezekiel Ferrell's Phantom Rose and comes onto the podium. But there for 3rd place.
Oh no, no, no!
Pro podium. The Aston Martin drivers were splitting around.
还好擦到而已。
Drivers in the proximity, but very short. The Spa second commentator.
哦，你天那个下坡有多难开？我看昨天 Spa 那边也是出一堆人。下雨天 Spa 最可怕的地方，急凑的这个，你不可能不用高速过，你在比赛。
It's there. The Audi Sports WRT drivers so frustrated. Team so near and yet so far. I understand on that second step as well. Ready for the podium then. And for 3rd place overall outcome, Nicky team, Marco Sorensen and Ross Gunn for Aston Martin for Garage 59. For 2nd place, it will be for Audi Sports Team WRT. Charles Witt, Kelvin van der Linde, and the man that gave it his all in that last hour, Dries van Thor. A massive cheer goes up, and Dries van Thor also wishes that he had a slightly wider car and could have hung on. But what a reaction our race winners are going to get, because as the top step of the podium awaits, the winners of the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa, Nicholas Nielsen, and Alessandro Piagrini.
我们快看不到赛道了。
A massive cheer is like being in a football match, isn't it? Out they come.
那是他喷的。
One thing you do in an Italian
Car on the
team
left.
is there is
Clear on the left.
unbridled
Faster car
joy.
coming up behind you.
Sport is it's an emotion.
Lý bái.
Mechanical sport.
喷的啦。
A faster car is approaching.
Get out of my way, bitch.
team. When I said it's like being a football match, no offence, England fans from the Euros. Brilliant result for Iron Lynx, for Ferrari, for Andrea Piccini's team, and Nicholas Nielsen, Alessandro Pierguidi, and Cohen Lenegar, the winners. Of course, the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa is part of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS. The third place presented by Fanatec. It is Thomas Yakima, the CEO of the company, who presents to the Aston team, to the Audi drivers.
You
can see there's some pride in what they've accomplished, but ultimately to be that close and come up just that little bit short, that eats away at you.
Well, Natalie Maillet, the CEO of the Circuit of Spa,
the
winning team, and then there will be the winners' trophies to be presented for winning the Spa 24 Hours for the third round of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS, the opening round of Intercontinental GT Challenge, and of course for taking the maximum points at the 6 and 12 hour mark. They're going to need another truck to get all the silverware home tonight. Iron Lynx, Ferrari, win at Spa. Cohen Lenegar, Nicholas Nielsen and Alessandro Pierguidi, the race winners. Incredibly impressive Spa 24-hour trophy. The Baccarat and Seven Rattel. There is a who's who of the Spa 24 Hours in that list of winners that are engraved on that trophy. It's a heavy old thing, but absolutely it is worth the effort to hold that aloft. It's one of the biggest and most famous trophies in long-distance racing, and the Ferrari drivers have certainly earned it.
Definitely so. They emerged in the middle of the eye test, the favorites, and seemingly were set to cruise until Mother Nature had other ideas. Wasn't meant to be. They had to fight their way back through, and they rose to the challenge, John.
Well, what was going to be the story of the race was the fact that the Audi, 32 Audi started back in the 54th position on the grid to the 27th.
要看下一圈经过的时候燃料多少。西班你是有病吗？
But then the rain came, and all of a sudden, what was going to happen looked like it was going to be a return. And then Alessandro Pierre, no one told that Alessandro Pierre's really, there was no script written. It was being written as the race unfolded.
And it kept us guessing right to the very end, depending on whose weather app you believed, who you believed in terms of the right tyre choice, and as the champagne is sprayed on the podium, the overall top three teams reflect on what is always a tough race. It's made even tougher by the weather, and so disappointing for WR team, and a tremendous drive by our race winners Alessandro Pierguidi and Nicholas Nielsen and Cohen Lenegar. Of course, it's the biggest win for Iron Lynx, the first Ferrari win since 2004, and the celebrations begin. Ferrari hasn't had a great track record in this event over recent years, but as the event becomes more competitive, it is a team with a relatively limited endurance racing background that comes, sees, and conquers.
我觉得是刚好。
Alessandro Pierguidi.
不刚好了，不刚好了，哦 ，no！
Its biggest win for Cohen Lenegar, for Nicholas Nielsen, their biggest successes of their careers. Add all that together, and you can understand exactly why there are such jubilant scenes from the Spa 24 Hours winners on the podium. Cohen Lenegar, Nicholas Nielsen, and Alessandro Pierguidi win the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa 2021.
对。 感觉是轮轴中断了，对，感觉是轮轴中断了。过不会从旁边过，为什么闪内线灯？你他妈是有病是不是啊？一般你不会超车吗？
It's an amazing achievement. I mean, just finishing a 24-hour race, let alone winning your class, and then being able to start on the podium and. You'll be honoured, be recognised as, I mean, I can imagine Duncan Cameron, who is the, okay, you call him a sort of semi-pro-am, but a very gifted, talented dam, whereas all three other drivers are professional.
Okay, the leader is on the
That
final
is
lap
just
now.
something
Give it to
you
him, Ken.
take with you for the rest of your commercial, for the rest of your competitive life.
Exactly so. Well, we've got the Pro-Ams and the Silvers. I suspect our AM, Victor, will join the Pro-Ams on the same podium. This is how the Endurance Cup for the Silver drivers now looks. Just 5 points between Rolf Inijk and Ricardo Feller, Alex Fontana, and after their category win, Patrick Cuellar, Ricardo Sanchez, Rick Brokers, and Ezekiel Perez compact. Although to be fair, Cuellar, because he's driven the different cars, is actually slightly in advance of his three co-drivers from this event. He's driven for Rinaldi in the Ferrari as well as Mad Panda, so Patrick Cuellar banking points across different teams, but he's building up last
IQ
for our next round.
200 IQ.
Another circuit not exactly noted for tropical weather conditions. For Garage 59, third in Pro, third in Silver. Valentin Asclo, Nikolai Kiergaard, along with Thomas Tuila and Alex McDowell go for the third step. For the second step of the podium after that pit lane start, Oscar Chunho, along with Paul Petit, Marvin Dienst and Axel Jeffries brought into that car at the last minute. But Mad Panda is going to be a happy panda because the winning team for the number 90 Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes are Rick Brokers, Patrick Cuellar, Ricardo Sanchez and Ezekiel Perez Companc. And it's the Mad Panda's eyes, I think, that are mirrored on the grille on the front of the Mercedes. But somewhere in the almost Frank Sidebottom-esque head, that'll date you if you know the reference to that, is Ezekiel Perez Companc, and he is the winner of the Silver Cup, along with his co-drivers. And onto the podium they go. Silver Cup winners, Rick Brokers, Patrick Cuellar, Ricardo Sanchez, and Ezekiel Perez Companc.
Hi there. Yeah. Low fuel pressure， 还有低燃油。
Fantastic result for Mad Panda Motorsport. Ezekiel Perez Companc, Ricardo Sanchez, Patrick Cuellar and Rick Brokers win Silver Cup in the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa. And so now the trophy is presented by Khalid Lohadra, the CEO of Rebellion Corporation, the official timing partner of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS. Trophies go then to
反正那个也是个 pit， 他差那么多圈。
Here guards to Alex McDowell and Thomas Tuila at the far end of the podium. To Axel Jeffries, how about that?
3个小时。
Being super sub brought in at the 11th hour.
Oh my God!
To join Oscar Chunko, Paul Petit, and Marvin Deans. But Axel Jeffries have got to be pretty pleased with making the effort to come here.
Not a bad day's work, was it? Great inspired choice to show up on race morning, even without the drive confirmed.
他那个是那 close time 对不对？右上角，2分30秒。
For this, gets dropped into this car and gets to stand on the podium at Spa.
Absolutely. The winning team's trophy goes to Mad Panda Motorsport, and although the panda looks like it's been decapitated, it's going to be a happy panda nonetheless.
I think there'll be a very happy team indeed. And you know, Ezekiel Perez Companc is an entertaining personality, and sometimes he's been a little bit over the top in his exuberance on the racetrack, but he's beginning to understand that you have to drive within your capacity to get results.
We have seen him fighting for overall race wins, but perhaps now by just fighting for class wins, I say just advisedly, but this is a level that's perhaps suiting him more rather than trying to outdo the pros.
I think so. I mean, everybody's got a level, and it's recognising your level is very important. And if you want to go out and compete against the winners in the Ferrari on level terms, I think you're probably being a little bit as ambitious. So stick to the categories. Maybe in time there will be a situation where they will put Ezekiel into a full pro car. But at the minute, they're doing an excellent job. They've got a brand with Mad Panda, which is probably the most popular brand amongst all the fans around the world.
Yeah, as soon as we can get fans back, I think the merchandising should take off. But yeah, panda costumes everywhere. So there, the Czechs presented to the season-long entrance across Endurance and Sprint Cup. and also awards from Pirelli for the silvers and the Pro-Ams, and then the celebrations can get underway. Silver Cup winners for Mad Panda Motorsports, Ezequiel Perez Compact, Ricardo Sanchez, Patrick Cuellar and Rick Brokers. Not sure I've ever seen quite so many pandas in the wild as there are on that podium, but they are absolutely over the moon. That was one of those races that the team kind of dreams of, and they were always able to fight back, and again,
3 hours.
Well, they did that early.
Only
and
one
they took
driver.
The lead. They took a commanding lead early
on.
And things started to switch around just past when the sun came up effectively, and we started to see this 159 Aston charging to the front, and it took the lead at one point, but then it had a couple of issues, a drive-through, and most notably, they had an issue in a pit stop where they couldn't get a door to close, and they dropped them from the lead to third in class. Ultimately, never could quite recover. On pace, that might have been the strongest of these 3 entries, but couldn't clean up the act completely. Meanwhile, Matt Panda didn't put a wheel wrong, and as a consequence, over 24 hours, that's very valuable. And you could see it by virtue of the check they were holding just a moment ago, just what kind of value that is.
Yeah, the Mad Panda has earned more bamboo tonight for that, hasn't it? So a great job done. They pose for the photographs, and then the Silver Cup drivers will vacate the podium, and the Pro-Am and winners combined. I suspect we will get all as well. And which will be our last podium ceremony, but after all the effort that goes into putting the team through the race, you can understand the teams wanting to maximise their moment on the podium. It's a special feeling, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I mean, particularly after an endurance event. I think about 24-hour races is you only really begin to appreciate what the match is all about. At the point when you take
quite hard.
One or you just finish, and then
他没有这样没有给我记耶。
It's the icing on the result.
算了，我跑得跑不完。可以练出去到那边找，要冲回来，应该要2分多钟。
You are all very, very happy pandas. Ezequiel will come to you first. That's the result that you were hoping and praying for the whole time.
Yeah, we worked really hard for this. I'm really proud of the drivers, of the team members.
他可以 save 啊。
Made this a reality because yeah, they did a fantastic job. I think nobody believed in us. We are new team, you know.
看这雨他妈要有多大就好。
Here with the biggest silver grid, 17 cars, and to win it was simply fantastic. I want to say big thanks also to my family, my father, my mother, my brothers.
为什么他没有一整段的重播？他重播的时间长就限制。
With the pandemic, but yeah, I ask everybody to stay strong, you know, and have a smile at the face.
Absolutely, as you all come across to you really quickly, because that was a race that at one point was touch and go, really close to you guys in the Aston.
哦，危险的是不是？重播长度就设定了。好的。
Absolutely, I'm going to come to you in a moment, Patrick. We'll just come across this way. You know, there was so much happening in that race from the very first hour to the end.
I know, it's my 6th time in Spa, and I want to thank Ezequiel for opening the doors again, and the second time with him, and we lived the race for almost 24 hours. It's just amazing. Thanks for Ezequiel, Marta, Grupoing, and everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Patrick, just quickly, you brought it home. An incredible race.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to the team. They did an amazing job. I'm very happy for them. They deserve it.
那个什么，他们超爱这个视角的，他们转播超爱这个视角。
Pro-Am is on the top step of the podium. Duncan Cameron, Matt Griffin, Miguel Molina and Rino Mastronardi take Pro-Am honours in the 2021 Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa for Ferrari, for AF Corsa, and there are winning AMs as out come Peter de Curtins, Dennis Bush, Manuel Lauck and Marc Basseng.
汤啊！那个可以拿去你在懂的，3美杀一台，哇，快！ 3美把一台搞爆。
Stuck in the corner, isn't it? The bright yellow suits there.
It is. And Marc Basseng, I haven't seen in such a long time.
因为很多人都选那个手动播放，因为怕有人那边故意抖那种奇怪的东西。 没有啊，搞过他是搞啊，有没有人检举就出事啊？有人检举就出事啊，就这样啊。不删 VOD 有人检举就出事。
Matt Griffin and Miguel Molina. At the far end of the podium, the AM winners, Peter de Curtins, Dennis Bush, Manuel Lauck and Marc Marseille. They all await their trophies, and it will be for our third Pro-Am crew that the trophies are given. First of all, there's another bright set of overalls nestling in the background, in which are Fabio Machitsky's arms and legs. There you've got Sandy Mitchell getting his trophy, along with Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez. Barwell Motorsport regulars on the podium in this event.
They have had a great deal of success winning, maybe not overall, but in their classes in recent years. Back on the podium once again. It's a stout team based in the UK. A lot of success in British GT. And proving that it's not just in their domestic championship that they can compete with the best. They test themselves regularly here against some of the best GT programs.
除非你累犯太多次，累犯太多次就会变成 overload 的。
Yeah, this year Barwell doing endurance and sprint and British GT.
就会变成
really busy year.
They found a really excellent partner with Lamborghini and Mark Lemmer. This is essentially a family team. Whereas some of the bigger teams like WRT is a very much more of a corporate team. So I think it's enormous credit to Mark Lemmer and those people that work together week in, week out, British GT, European, whatever. They always come away with a result.
Trophies in the air. Pro-Am winners for 2021 at Spa, Duncan Cameron, Rino Mastronardi, Matt Griffin and Miguel Molina celebrate their win at the end of another outstanding drive, and the AM winners are also keen to get in on the act as they receive their trophies, so everybody has to wait just one moment or two before champagne is sprayed.
划船。我看的时候，他是在看那个今天500米竞艇，就是1500米双人双桨。
Helping the engineering on the link side, winning in its own right in Pro-Amers. Now the champagne is sprayed for our Pro-Am and AM victors at the end of the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa.
就 YT 上那些新闻检讨，他回的5个小时就解 ban 了，你知道吗？他直接 ban 5个小时。
They weren't wet enough with the rain. They are certainly wet enough now.
We saw the umbrellas up, and I don't think that is for rain.
下
The
午
rain
下
has
午看，
slackened and
我
ceased,
晚
it
上看他
appears.
不见了。
Since the conclusion of the
早
race,
上看他就回来了。
it's a savvy team member who brings the umbrella to the podium celebration. They've been there a few times before.
Seasoned pros, aren't
That's
they?
right.
Yeah.
The other thing you must remember to do on the podium with champagne is close your eyes. It stings.
Let's catch up with our second place silver team right now from the TalkSport WRT squad.
Boys, it was an incredible drive, really, to come in there and get the second in silver class. Oscar, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, well, very happy with the result today. I really want to thank my team, my teammates. We all did an amazing job. For us, it was a tricky race because we started from the pit lane. We say in regards to our friend Berkay, who didn't manage to do the race, but yeah, we had Axel who helped us to be there today. Thanks to Marvin also that he didn't make a last stint and we managed to be on the podium today.
Absolutely. I mean, just to come across to bring that home from the pit lane is something.
5小时真的是超级耐力赛，3小时。我一个人开3小时的话，我是不是也去参加准备8耐之类的？
Throughout the race, it didn't look too good for us, and then yeah, the weather in the end played in our cards, and everything went perfect.
The atmosphere down here is absolutely incredible. Spa is such a special place to be on a podium.
Yeah, for sure. It's an amazing race, really competitive. So at the end, just thanks to all the team. The start of the season is not easy, but now we are back on the game. And thanks to all my teammates for an amazing job today.
Absolutely, and just a final word. So we hear from all of you, as if the rain wasn't enough, there's champagne still being sprayed all over you.
Yeah, look, obviously it's nice to celebrate in this way, but I think just overall, massive thanks from everyone at TalkSport and really Marvin. Marvin did an amazing job today. A lot of this is credit to him. So yeah, just great to have a podium here.
今天就单纯赛车啊，下一次开台呢，应该是我不知道8月4号还是8月6号，站垒要开始干。夏日活动，为期1个月，一天要打快10个小时。好，跟各位说声晚安，我们几天之后就会再见了，不用担心啊，拜拜。